T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You're now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world. Welcome to the Trap Talk Reptile Podcast Tuesday night segments. That's the Fat Snake Tuesdays. With me is my boy, Eric Lee. Shout out to Eric Lee. How you doing tonight, Eric?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing really well, man. Thank you so much for being in with me here yet again. Go give my boy Eric Lee a follow on Instagram. The Real SD Snow King. Is that right?
Yeah, SD Snow King
on IG. Guys, if this is your first time tapping in, do your boy a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you're on top of every single podcast and piece of content I drop here on this channel. This segment is all about the bigger snakes, the bigger projects out there in the reptile world, mainly reticulated pythons, super dwarfs. At some point we'll talk about scrubs and Burmeses, but man, tonight we have something in store for all you super dwarf lovers and all you dwarf and locality specific reticulated python lovers, because we got Garrett Hartle on the show tonight. How you feel about Garrett, buddy?
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. You and Garrett go back pretty far, right? I mean, from what I remember.
I've known him for a few years, so.
Yeah.
He's come out to my place when I was in Arizona, so that was years and years ago.
Well, like I said, it's always a pleasure getting to catch up with Garrett and seeing what's happening with him and the Super Dwarf stuff this year. But yeah, guys, do me a favor, drop me a comment what you like best out of tonight's episode. I do got to say that tonight's episode is brought to you by Sim Container. If you got eggs, put them inside of a Sim box, man. Less steps, less stress. If it's a Sim, it's a win all day, every day. I'm not gonna lie, me and Eric just took a sneak peek on our 42 Super Dwarf eggs that we have, and holy shit, Eric.
They look pretty ridiculous. Looking forward to them.
We hit some heat, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
Absolutely.
And all of these hatched out of inside of a Sim Container, guys. So from my knowledge, John is stocked back up with the Sim Container. So head over to Sim Container's Instagram or just head over straight to simcontainer.com. Place an order for your Sim Container. And yeah, Sims are the best, man. Thank you so much, John and Alex. This episode is also brought to you by Freedom Breeder, #1 stainless steel RHACS built in the United States since the 90s, man. I use Freedom Breeder. Eric Lee used Freedom Breeder. They're the best. I mean, all your RHACS are Freedom Breeder. Is that right, Eric?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. How long have you been using Freedom Breeder for?
4 or 5 years, give or take.
4 or 5 years? Would you use any other rack besides Freedom Breeder at this point, or are you diehard Freedom Breeder?
Nah, I'm used to Freedom Breeder from here on out.
Yeah, man, awesome. Well, listen, guys, shout out to all the early birds. Appreciate everyone inside the live chat tonight. Again, episode where are we at? 327, man. But this is something that we just started picking up with the Fat Snake Tuesday, so you guys are in for a treat. Sit back, relax. Do something to get your mind right, but stay hydrated because it's going to get hot. It's going to get heavy. Coming at you is Garrett Hartle from Reach Out Reptiles. Let's go. Good. You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes.
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it.
Snake Tuesdays with Garrett Hartle tonight, baby. And here he is, the man himself.
Woohoo!
How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, bud. How's it going? Super excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I really got to love the surroundings that you're currently in right now. Why don't you explain to people what's happening?
Yeah, you guys are getting kind of a sneak peek into our Patreon studio. We have a little studio room for all the social media. And I can give you like a little quick tour, I guess.
Yeah,
Like
cool.
right over there is where we film all those USARK videos with the fancy backgrounds. There's where Thomas and Hadley work and all that kind of stuff, doing all the social media stuff that I don't know how to do. And then for Patreon, we usually kick back down here with the snake. We got one out for you tonight. I don't know if you can see her. She's up on the top shelf up there, Snoodle. So, yeah, that's it. Good, cozy little spot, nice little studio, easy to. It's nice having a place that you can just. I mean, you've got it. You turn on the camera and go. Right?
Yeah.
We're all used to the backgrounds and stuff that you got behind there, with the caging and everything like that. So you get the dedicated space. It makes you a little easier to jump on stuff like this or film something real quick, which is pretty important for us, especially with the USARK stuff. Holy smokes, you know.
Yeah, holy smokes indeed, right? Because, you know, we're all, I don't want to say prepared, but we all have a rally behind USARK. By the way, I appreciate all the hard work that you've done behind USARK and what you have contributed so far, just being involved, Garrett. But, like, you know, we're all kind of are warned about situations like this, but not this drastic. Like, nobody thought this is going to come to the point where somebody goes to someone's facility and just starts massacring these animals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody watching knows what you're talking about, but I guess in case they didn't, Chris Coffey's place, his collection at someone else's house, was actually raided by Florida Fish and Wildlife last Thursday. And so he had a number of animals that he originally had permitted. You know, this is the dirty thing about the way, you know, Florida has been treating the reptile keepers down there. They made everybody sign up and permit all their animals, which these guys did legally. And then they outlawed it and said, and I don't even know how this is, I mean, I think it's unconstitutional personally, that they're not grandfathered in, you know, that if you had your animals legally before they make a law outlawing them, you should still be allowed to keep them, right? I mean, that's constitutional. But they didn't. They raided the house, they killed them, they misidentified a couple other snakes, killed those two. Scary stuff, you know, it's really scary stuff. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that the greater public can kind of appreciate that, but you guys know this. I mean, we love our animals, right? Like, I mean, I've seen the way both of you guys keep your stuff over there and everything. It's all top notch, spare no expense, spoil the animals, you know, take good care of them and everything. And then you have somebody come in and raid them. I mean, like, can you imagine if they try to do that to dogs and cats across the country? Like the outrage, but I think a lot of people are like, not my problem.
I think that's where most people are pissed off right now, because here we are looking at just reptiles for the, you know, for the outsider looking in. And if this was a goddamn house full of puppies or kittens or just whatever, anything that was more popular than a reptile, this would be all over the news. It would be a big thing. But that's the thing. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, we also don't know the future, right? And I know there's a lot of people trying to do what they can and contact the governor and whatnot. But, like, I don't know. I feel like this is something that's going to get slid under the rug. I don't think this is going to hit any news sources as far as like on a global stand or anything. I don't know. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but
well, we'll see what happens. I think the big thing is, you know, we've said it a million times, especially me. We all need to support USARK for sure, because they're the ones that kind of guide the outrage, right? They tell us what we need to do to make a difference. They tell us the things that we need to be watching out for. Because of these bans and stuff in Florida, I mean, USARK has a lawsuit against them that was filed 2 years ago about these laws, and this is the stuff that they're doing in between. But you know, honestly, I would love to, if everybody watching would just jump on to USARK's official YouTube channel and subscribe there, because we're going to have Daniel from USARK Florida and Phil from the national USARK on with us this Friday and talk about this issue, what you guys can do. You know, it's funny when you get something terrible like this, whether it's, you know, remarkable, sad, dramatic, whatever it is, everybody's all over it for a minute. and then it kind of goes away. But like I said, 2 years ago, they filed the lawsuit. We all need to be diligent the whole time and consistently. So on Friday, we'll let you guys know exactly what to do about that stuff, if that's cool. So we'll reach out and those guys out.
Garrett, unfortunately, when you gave us a little mini room tour, it froze up your camera. So I'm going to boot you out and come right back in, okay? You're good. It was still worth it. It's all good. I got to ask you, Eric. I mean, the reality of someone coming into your house like that, I mean, how do you think something gets to the point where they just roll into your house and just start killing your animals?
Probably have a vendetta against them, or either someone right out of their mouth. But Fishing Game knew because he had the permits, everything, because I think he was asking for an extension from what my understanding of, since that new law passed where it was illegal. So them just coming in and no announcements. It's like, hey, we're coming to euthanize our animals.
Whoa.
That's a super shady thing for me.
Whoa, what? FWC just copyright striked Brian's and Billy's live stream. Because I know Brian Cusco is doing it. He did a live at 5:30 with Billy from Mutation Creation. But it was specifically to talk about this matter. And that's wild. I don't know how much of that's true. But it's just kind of like I don't know, man. How deep of this is going to unravel? You think? I mean,
you got to figure like what Florida passes. All these other states kind of follow suit with all these crazy bans that have no basis in science or ecology or any of that. So it's just basically whoever pushes in more money, get those laws passed. Which is unfortunate for everyone. It screws everyone, and it turns everything into I'm not going to register anything because of this. So I think that's 22.
And the craziest thing behind all this is how much they were adamant about not having any video cameras or anything. And luckily that guy recorded it anyways.
Yeah, because I saw a response on Facebook. Yeah, I guess someone sent, I don't know if it was the commissioner or the governor, then the response back was basically, the shorthand was like, FWC was basically saying, oh, we were called there by the owners because they wanted them euthanized, which, that's just beyond ridiculous. Where if that was the case, why did the guy film in the first place? If that was truly like, if he called and said, hey, come kill all my animals, but when you film it anyways, that doesn't make sense.
But I mean, whose idea was it to use a nail gun? You know what I mean? Like, is that, I mean,
well, technically it's like a bolt gun. That's what they use. They use like, I think, cattle. There's a little piston driven like bolt that comes, punctures the skull, kills them instantly. So I think they use them for cattle, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my god, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, but even like from the video, like that, I think there's the guy in the uniform looks like he knew what he was doing. They gave him a 30-second rundown. It's like obviously you're not trained on it. And it's like everything was so half-assed and just like whoa, like that's crazy. Then you see the reaction when you kill the boa. They realize even though that guy was saying, okay, there's a boa, not just one block, like yeah, it's just mind-boggling.
And what was up with the stupid facial reaction? Like when they're like, "Oh, it is a boa" after it's dead. You know what I mean? I just didn't understand that. It's a lot of negligence, man.
The whole thing is just beyond. You can't even comprehend how it's just bad all around.
Guys, if you're just now tapping in, Garrett just stepped away for a little bit to reset his connection. He should be coming right back in. But we're just kind of talking about the USARK Florida situation. Well, make sure it wasn't Garrett. Anyways, guys, thank you for tapping in, though. I appreciate it. At the end of the day, my crazy thing is, I don't know, man. We all hate crooked shit in this world, and this is just looks really crooked. This doesn't look right at all.
No, not at all. That, and at the end of the day, you got to the issue with the reptile community is everyone's very cliquey. You take people, go python people, you got to go with whatever monitors. The only way we'll ever get past this or through this, and keep our rights is if we band together.
Eric's voice is soft spoken. He doesn't need to be loud for nobody. Okay, just so you know. No, but I don't know. In the reality of things, Eric, you would think that USARK, even though USARK does everything they can, right? But even having them doesn't protect us from having shit like this happen.
No, not at all. I mean, you have the nationwide laws that come down, but then you have the local ordinances that will ban animals based on size. So it's just one of those things.
Hi, Garrett, you're back.
Hey, you guys good?
Yeah, we're good.
We're good.
So, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, Garrett, I know we were talking about this before you reset your connection here, but, we all kind of feel comfortable or cozy inside knowing that I'm a USARK member. There's people who are very pro USARK, but even being a USARK supporter cannot keep something like this terrible happening to you. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, this is the government doing this. This is the state of Florida that's doing it down there. And yeah, I mean, USARK is the thing is, it's supposed to be a government of the people. Each one of us, if we do our part, the government will react accordingly, just like any business or community or anything else. If we stand up for what we believe in, we watch each other's backs, stuff like that, then then we are the ones that dictate it. But you can't. I mean, it's great to support USARK, but you can't expect like one guy. Phil Goss is a freaking superhero, but right. You can't expect him to fight all the battles for everyone, no matter where you're at globally. Same thing goes with Daniel with USARK Florida. I mean, ultimately what they need is thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who don't like what the government is doing to tell them to cut it out. And they will bow to that, and they will leave it alone. But if we sit by and just leave it go, then, you're getting nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't know, Garrett, I've only been in the game for about 6 years, and I've heard multiple times of laws coming and going, right? There's always things that get thrown down on certain things, and then all of a sudden that goes back to normal, or I don't want to say normal, but the law gets released. I just don't know how to think about this. This is scary. Like, who's going to be the next person who has government officials just come into their house and just start killing animals? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or reptiles. Yeah. Because here's the thing. We're animals, right? If this, like, going back to if this was dogs or cats, this would be a whole nother situation, This is reptiles. Like, it's because it's a reptile. I feel like that's the biggest reason why it's going to be, brushed under the rug from it getting to a global stance,
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are people out there that want very, very much to tell you what to do with your life. And they're going to try to get a foot in the door with that and weasel their way in and blow it open if they can, if you allow it, right? So you let them get in, you get a little bit more. So there's people that hate the fact that people have pets. They don't understand that connection with animals. They don't think humans can be responsible for it. It's sort of like better if we just left them alone and didn't do anything with animals at all. And so, I mean, that's across the board: dogs, cats, birds. It doesn't matter what kind of animal it is. This is what these people believe. And so they don't have the public backing to do anything about it because they're a pitiful minority. When you ask, the average Joe walking down the street, do you like your dog? Do you like your cat? Do you like I mean, I met a guy today who had kept retics in the past. I was like, right on, man. And he loved them and everything too. But yeah, they're going to get their foot in the door however the heck they can. And that's with less understood communities like arachnids, reptiles, especially snakes, things that people are afraid of, stuff that people hate, and they're going to start there and they're going to work with it, see how far they can go.
And Garrett, listen, you brought up the word hate, and it's unfortunate because you could just be the nicest guy on this earth and just doing your down. And sometimes you just have hate just come all up in your face. How do you, I mean, first off, how are you dealing with it? I mean, at the end of the day, we all have haters, right? But you've had somebody specifically trying to come after your brand, and then not only your brand, but your people. If we have other shit like this, we should really be worried about. But at the end of the day, how are you dealing with that, Garrett? I got to ask you, how it feels to be attacked, your character, as far as what you've been doing with your legacy with Reach Out Reptiles.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what we do here at Reach Out Reptiles, working with the dwarf and super dwarf retics, that's what I like. That was the most shareable vein of what I could do. Eric and I have talked about this. Eric, you remember when I visited you out in Phoenix and your apartment had no furniture or anything like that? You had this decked out snake room, and you had some super dwarves in there, but I think at the time they were maybe half of your collection or something like that. You still had a decent amount of mainlands and everything. And I love mainland retics as much as the next guy. But I wanted to have a bajillion of them and share them with everybody, And so for a lot of people, having a gigantic animal like that is restrictive. I wanted to make it small. So I don't know. That's my brand. That's my thing. That's our passion. That's what we want to do. There's most people, I think, are enjoying what we do, the fruits of our effort, all that kind of stuff. We take our extra time, money, any efforts that we have, and we do things like support USARK, right? Making all those videos for them week after week for free. That's a lot of work, but I think it's important to do that kind of stuff. But you're always going to have somebody that hates you all the time. So you're asking me how I deal with it. There's somebody that's gunning for us right now. I just don't deal with it. You know, they say when somebody really hates you, what are the 3 reasons they always say they hate you for? It's like they're jealous of you, they want to be you, or they don't like themselves, something like that, right?
All 3 for sure.
And I don't know what the case is. I don't know what it is. Whatever today's issue is, when you have somebody that just like is an active hater, like, you know, like the cliche hater word or whatever.
Right.
Today's issue always seems like it's a huge issue, but tomorrow it's going to be something completely different again. They just still hate you, right? So there's one person it's really only one person that's been gunning for me pretty hard, and they hate me because they've hated me for 10 years. So whatever they can say, they will say. It's just that they stop, I guess, being respectful or considering collateral damage. So this person is tagging my staff, harassing them in things. When they've asked them to stop, they have tried to include USARK in hating me. They've always been somebody who, you know, hates USARK actively, starts Facebook pages and tries to get things to, you know, badmouth either Phil or USARK or Andrew from back in the day, or whatever the case may be, to try to take them down. So hate is going to be hate. The message itself is actually less important than the fact, you know, realizing that this person has a hateful agenda. And what are you going to do about that? You're not going to do anything about that, right? So
yeah. I think my biggest piece of advice I'm looking for at this point is, because, you know, I went through a little bit of, I mean, nothing to wait. Like, you have one person trying to make a huge deal out of whatever he wants to make a deal of. And I felt like I was always able to deal with my haters because, okay, say what you want about me. I don't give a shit, you know, but until they reached people who supported me, right? And then they got to my sponsors. And that's when it kind of made me crumble inside, because these are people who support me. By him kind of reaching out to the people who were closest to you, I mean, I don't know, Garrett. I mean, at the end of the day, like, it kind of bothers me. But I have to, you know, I let people do what they want, but it bothers me when somebody is so adamant about taking me out of something that I love, right? Like, their main goal is to make sure I'm canceled or I'm not a part of this. And then I have people that, you know, are not really behind that, but they're like, hey, man, you know, they still support that. What I mean is, it's like, how are you dealing with people who are kind of like supporting you, but then also supporting this guy at the same time? Like, are we to cut people out because they're like they support both? I mean, because I have PTSD of people fucking me over. I have PTSD of trust issues, just people doing shady stuff to me. So in my eyes, I have no problem cutting somebody out if I feel like they're an issue. But is that a wrong thing to do, or is that a right thing to do? Especially when it comes down to wanting to protect your brand and protect what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you got to play that case by case. I mean, so some of it is like, I mean, when you're talking about like cutting people out or supporting who you support, I love it how Eric from the Morelia podcast radio would always say, you vote with your dollar, who stays and goes. Right. So really, if you actually want to cut somebody out of a particular part of your life, here, there, whatever you want to do, then, like, for example, if you don't want Reach Out Reptiles to sell super doors anymore, buy super doors from somebody else over and over and over again, and eventually we won't be viable, right? You're literally shutting it down, and it is what it is, and it evolves. It's to the opposite effect. We're talking about the USARK Florida stuff. If you want to allow the kinds of things that are happening, all you have to do in that case, they're already happening, is be completely inactive. They'll continue to happen. So you have to you have to actively support the people you want to have around long into the future. And all of us are going to make decisions that are going to affect what that future is. I think this is a lot, if we're talking candidly or whatever, I think that this is a lot of, the stuff that you're talking about is that people have been going to, some of your supporters and talking bad about you to try to pull your support from that. Right. And I don't know the whole story on that. I usually try to stay out of all the drama, but there, I know that in talking to you, on the side and stuff, you were saying, hey, there's things that I said, or there's things that I did. And some of them you were saying, I didn't mean that, or I regret that, or I shouldn't have said that. And then other ones you stand by, you have other opinions that you stand by. Right. Eventually, you got to pick what you want the world to look like and actively pursue it. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, I think every one of us has things that we can get better at as individuals, if that's what you're asking me. Right. Then if I want to grow as an individual, I should look at some of the criticisms and say, hey, is there actually something that I'm doing wrong here? Or is this something that is like, this is something that somebody is like, nah, I've just hated you forever. And that's what it's going to be. I think it takes a big man to step up, make things right, turn things where, if you've done something wrong, go ahead and make apologies, do what you got to do, make all that stuff happen and go from there. So I applaud you for that. I think that you've done that kind of thing. And then there's other stuff that it's like, this is who I align with. This is what I'm doing. This is my message. And that's who I am. And at that point, you can hate me or you can like me, right? Like if I'm trying to get likes, maybe I breed mainlands for guys who are buying mainlands. But if I'm trying to very specifically usher super dwarf retics into the market or something like that, then I can ignore that whole segment. Does that make sense? I see it the same, whether it's personal, business, any of that kind of stuff.
So I love you to death, Garrett, and I'm gonna challenge you a little bit on this, just because out of everything, as far as what you're being accused of by this one person, mind you, it's not a group of people or anything. It's just one guy, like very, very. It's almost like he's obsessed. So I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, it's just kind of like holy shit. Anyway, so out of everything you hear and listen to, one thing bothered me. One thing did bother me, and the reason why this bothers me is because if anyone knows MJ, if you want to get him worked up, bring up some animal neglect type shit. And then that's the way to kind of get me really mad. I'm not drinking or anything, so I'm not going to lose it. I'm going to keep it together right now, which is good. But
hang on to him, Eric. Hang on to him.
Good. One of the things that really baffles me is like, what does it take for somebody to really not be able to do business in this industry anymore? And there has been kind of next level documentation proof on a certain individual who I feel like is been quite the stain in the retic community, especially because this is somebody who I've seen kind of almost damage what you've been doing with the Super Dwarf game. This guy Samson, right? Never really been a big fan of him, but I've also just seen too much of what he's been doing, and it really just I just rather not. And apparently, what's happened is you sent him a snake of somebody's of this guy who's really upset, and I don't know. I always thought Reach Out Reptiles, and this is, like I said, I want to hear it from you, but I'm just saying, I always thought Reach Out Reptiles had some sort of a standard where, like, you would never send anything to somebody like that. And if you didn't, then this is your time to tell me or whatever. But that right there was the only thing, Garrett, that made me like, I had to sit down and be like, why would he do that? And I don't know. This not my business at all, because you have something going on with him that I don't know. But that right there, like, you want to talk about voting with your dollar, like that right there is the only thing that really kind of bothered me, Garrett. And I just don't know if that's the truth. Are you really sending animals to Samson and keeping this guy relevant, even though he's really not, in my eyes, and to a lot of people, guys? I'm just saying, I don't want to get into why I don't like him. It's pretty obvious, but what's up with that? I got to ask you.
Sure. So if you're asking like what went down or what's true about different things that are said about different things, like I can see a super chat right there. ROR sells to Samson Pruitt. I think that's been the main thing of this guy's hate, who's actually in the chat right there right now. That's not true. I have never actually sold an animal to Samson Pruitt. Never once at all. Samson's gotten animals from me, and I've gotten some animals from him, especially in like locality stuff and things like that. Them trying to do that kind of stuff. But that's the extent of that. As far as is Garrett Hartle, is Garrett's staff, is USARK somehow involved in financially backing animal abuse? 2 weeks ago, it was physical abuse. You know, we did, Eric, I think you know this, you know, the TK line Kalatoa stuff. We made a video about the TK Kalatoas. Did you get to see it at all, Eric?
Yeah, I saw it.
What did you think?
No, I mean, it's a history in that, like that little snapshot of what went down after he was already out was not relevant to what he did prior to that. Plus, if that was a drug bender or this or that, it's not exactly indicative of the individual beforehand. I mean, a lot of people do a lot of stupid stuff on drugs, on alcohol. That might have been a one-time deal. So it's like you're gonna judge them for one instance when all that other stuff prior to the TK line was exponentially before any of that other stuff that's been probably in the last few years.
But correct me if
That's
I'm wrong.
just the history of it. So
I don't know if you're talking, if you know what he's talking about, because Eric knows going back to this TK line. You know, there's a guy that got out of it 10 years ago. We did a history on a specific bloodline of Kalatoas, right? And sort of talked about past, this is where it came from, present, this is what we're seeing with it, possible future in the project, this is where it is. Sometime between when that guy got out 10 years ago and when we released the video, what was it? I don't know, Eric. It was like a month ago or something like that.
something like that. Yeah.
6 weeks ago, something like that. The guy had got arrested for domestic violence charges. So this guy came and is trying to accuse, you know, me of somehow being connected with domestic violence. Now it's animal abuse, you know, and on and on and on it is. The problem is that I see with it, and I would be interested, you know, MJ, you can go ahead and school me, see what you think. I mean, you can ask,
well, don't ever disrespect me like that. I'm not schooling you in anything, buddy. Come on.
oh, I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm saying I'm here willing to learn from you. I actually respect your opinion on it. But
Right.
but I would say this, like, you know, I think that the reason that this guy has it out for me so bad for so long, because it's nothing about current issues, this, that, whatever the case may be. This is something that's been going on for like 10 years, 15 years. I remember when I first started Reach Out Reptiles, this guy was going on saying, this guy's going to destroy the market, the hobby, and the industry for super dwarves. You know, because of what? I don't know. You know, where did that come from? The only thing I can think of, and this is why I was asking you about it, MJ, is that I used to work at Prehistoric Pets. I think I left there in 2013. I worked there for 3 years.
Yep.
So, you know, the guy has basically hated me ever since then. Now, I know you have strong opinions about Jay, Prehistoric Pets, all that kind of stuff and everything too. But at what point do we as an industry try to like either withhold each other, build each other up, or just continue to break each other down to stay relevant? You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you look at what we try to do here at Reach Out Reptiles, I mean, in your words, or Eric, you know, like MJ was saying at the beginning of the show, you've known me for a while. What would you guys say that we try to do for the community, the industry, the animals, all that kind of stuff? What's your take on that? MJ, you've been here. You've been to my facility.
Yeah.
You know, so have you, Eric, right?
I love your facility.
Yeah.
Like I said, Garrett, this is kind of almost definitely not an extreme as a bar check thing, but as much as I was being told about bar check and how his shit is all this and that, went to his place, I was floored. Wow, amazing. Same thing with your place. Not that anyone told me your place was trash. I'm just saying, like, I've gone to your place while you were still in the makes of coming out with different versions of everything, and it was so inspiring to see someone putting this much effort into something, all because, like, you could tell you're doing your own thing, Garrett, and that right there just, I mean, I strive for that in life. I always want to be known for doing my own thing. But like, you know, this is what, oh man, and like I gotta tell you what, this might be the killer of me someday, is obviously like with business is business, and I understand how that works, and you got to put your personal feelings on the side. I'm so personal with these animals to where if I support somebody to where I think we're on the same page, and then I find out that an animal is sent from the person I support to someone I truly despise. And then and it gives this one guy, the one guy who's coming out with all this shit, it gives him, like, I mean, first and foremost, did you send it or did you not, Garrett? I don't know if you said yes or no. I can't. You said no, right? Or did you? I can't.
No, I said, what I said was, I've never sold any animals to Samson. I've never bought any animals from Samson. There have been times throughout history, or whatever, that Samson has received animals from me, or I have received animals from him in different ways. So the snake that this guy's going off about at this current time is actually an animal that I owned for like 2 weeks, as I transferred it from one guy and sent it over there. Actually, basically just acted as the middleman in a transaction to get him the animal. And I don't think it has anything to do with, I think for you, you have valid concerns. If an animal is going to be mistreated or, you know, whatever the case may be, none of us wants to see that stuff. You know what I mean? This guy's also accused us of like purposely like beating up his animals in our facility because he thinks we don't like him, which is crazy. You know, come on, that's crazy, right? Who would do that? Like, hey, little puppy, I hate the guy who bred you. You know, you know what I'm saying? Which doesn't make any sense at all. Right. So yeah, I acted as a middleman. I sent one animal over to this guy, not for profit or anything like that. And that's what that accusation is based off of. So, you know, I guess that is what it is, you know, sent an animal over there. I think that the whole thing is more of a, I mean, I think this guy knows that you don't like Samson. You know, this guy doesn't like a lot of people in the industry. Doesn't like Samson, doesn't like Kevin, doesn't like Jay, doesn't like Bob. If you guys are a retic breeding, you know, show, you probably know these names that I'm talking about, right?
But Garrett, all those people that have names, all those names you dropped have done something to an animal to piss somebody off. And you can't get mad if that's how they feel. This is another thing about some situations. Like I said, Garrett, I never went to your place, opened up a tub, and saw a missing face on a snake. Okay? If I did, we wouldn't be this cool buddy at all. Hell no. Sure. I mean, I would just dig deep, like, why do you have this snake, right? So I'm scarred. Like, there's no turning me of me accepting what I went through because I still go through it. I still think of that moment of the neglect I saw in those snakes. So if I feel this way, I know your Patreons. How many Patreon members do you have? You have a lot of Patreon members, right? How many do you have, if you don't mind me asking? Like ballpark.
200.
Okay, that's a lot. Some percentage of that 200 has their feelings a little mixed up, you would say, because of this situation, right? And that's why I'm bringing this up, because if I could clear anything right now, I would like to clear it now. I will always be an ROR supporter because I know you, Garrett. I've hung out with you. We've had talks, personal talks. I know your mission, buddy. I know who you are. So I don't think there should be anything clouded over Reach Out Reptiles whatsoever, but especially the people who pay you with their dollar by supporting you. So, you know, but I got to tell you, there's definitely people within that 200 range that are probably confused right now. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, but you got to, so this is, I guess, the way I take on it. And again, you may, like, my general philosophy in life is kind of live and let live, right?
Yeah.
The motivations behind hate is something I think that you have to look at if you're listening to the message. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, am I not right? Like, yeah. So for example, I could say the exact same thing that you just said to me. There's a lot of supporters who don't like this. Well, why don't they like that? What is the story? What are we talking about here? Because, for example, you know, you guys I love Freedom Breeder. We've made a bunch of videos with Freedom Breeder. I remember, Eric, I was talking to you about different Freedom Breeder racks that I'd used, not used, what I liked or didn't like about them in the context of Super Dwarves when you were buying your own stuff. Yeah, shout out to Jesse and the gang. Those guys are freaking awesome. Hooked them up with Brian Cusco, who's like my guy, somebody I absolutely love, another really solid, good dude in the industry. But there's a lot of people that, I mean, you know this. There's a huge, like, never keep an animal in a tub trend in the industry. What are the validations of that? And I think that there are some people that are traumatized seeing what conditions certain animals were kept improperly in tubs about. Does that mean that everything is is bad and going to hell in a handbasket forever? I mean, no, I don't think so. I still keep animals in tubs. I was actually talking to I think they were friends of yours, but Steven and Ashley over from Focus Cubed.
Yeah.
They're doing like next level stuff, either with enclosures, tubs. A rack is basically like stacking up your cages, right? That's the way I see it anyways. So you can put them in a tub, you can do what you want to there. But is that inherently good, bad, or anything else for the animal? I don't know.
Right.
So I guess the thing would be this. You got started a little bit later. I got started a little bit earlier. You know, when I started in reptiles, like I worked for Jay. I think he's a great guy. Does stuff happen in his shop that shouldn't happen that way? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was an employee there. I saw blatant disregard of other employees and stuff, and they were handled, treated, did this other kind of thing. I think any of those guys are like that. Kevin was in a huge debate from Nerd with this same guy, you know, I don't know what it was, a year or 2 years ago, about something that had been told incorrect about Giampeas, which it was obvious it couldn't have been correct, whatever. He came online, he said, yeah, I did that. My employee said that. That was not right. Took care of the information, and everything was good. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know. My thing is like a live and let live thing. Those guys I've known going way back. When you've been in the industry as long as some of these people have, you've run into all kinds of situations. When you deal with the numbers of people that they have, they deal with all kinds of situations. Some of these things are going to be great. Some of them are not going to be great. You know, I'll tell you, like, I think it's just, I don't know. I think the thing about it is, like, at what point do you straight up throw somebody away? I guess that was the original question that you were talking about regarding the other guy, right? The guy that asked at the end.
Let me rephrase it. Specifically, understand, I have Patreon members, a part of my Patreon community that were once a part of your Patreon community, and now they're not. And from what I heard is there are certain people that you're just cutting ties with because it's too risky. And so, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, some of these people have been supporters of yours for a long time, and they're like me. They're really geeked out over you. You know what I mean? So, you know, there's just got to be a little clarity here. I feel like, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I don't know if this is just a precaution thing, because I get like that too, Garrett. If I feel like, well, I don't trust this group at all, because I've seen screenshots. I've seen my own Patreon members at one point. It hasn't happened a long time, but like talking shit about my own Patreon, and you pay me to be here, so it gets very confusing sometimes. I think out of the 3 years I've had a Patreon family, I've only had to kick out 2 people, but that's because I felt like, why are you here? You're so like against what I'm doing, but you're paying me. It was weird. So I don't know if that's the case. And I'm, like I said, I don't want to get nosy, but you just have people who really fucking love you, Garrett, and I just don't want a misjudgment thing happening for you right now. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I think we have a great Patreon community. I mean, that's something that we've worked very hard to develop and everything else. And then, during times when, stuff happens, it could be anything. Like we've had, I had an incubation failure one time. It was probably one of the most heartbreaking moments as a breeder. Eric, you and I have talked about a lot of stuff over the years. Like, oh, I think we did it yesterday. Was it yesterday that we were talking? And it was, you were talking about the difficulties that your Snow GC girl went through. And I was talking about certain losses and clutches and things like that. And it's like, especially if you're working with like one of a kind animals, whether they're some crazy high-end morph or like a really rare locality or what it may be. So anyway, long story short, my Patreon community is who I lean on. I see a lot of those guys in the chat too. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate your love and support. And a lot of these guys have seen what we do. And I think that maybe this is why you're asking for clarity too, MJ, is that you've seen what we do on a daily basis, year in, year out, day in, day out, work very hard, try to help other people, even in times where you have had drama or hate dropped on your doorstep. I've always been like, MJ, like this, and this. I support you. I see what you're doing. This, and this. I mean, I think this may not be something that you're doing that's right or whatever. And we've talked about that. And I've always appreciated that. You've always supported me and love, and so have I and you. But it's not unfounded either. And we've had conversations that were more confrontational or whatever, like this one, not openly confrontational, you against me or anything like that, but talking about different issues within the industry. I think you're going to get that with anybody that's super passionate. So what we did, this guy that's hated us, we've ignored him for 10, 15 years. I have. When he started attacking our staff or doing things that made them feel attacked, even though they're asking not to, or trying to draw connections in the same way that he was trying to say, like, we somehow support domestic violence because we made a video about a bloodline of Kalatoas, that we now somehow support animal abuse because we acted as the shipper from one guy to another guy in a way that, that made sense, whatever, the ultimate circumstance is. I tell you, there was no sales and no business motivation on my end in that transaction.
Yeah.
On the haters' end, it's a different story.
Right.
I think he freaked out and said, this is going to destroy my market. The guy there's a specific locality that the guy works at that he, I guess, feels like can only be protected if he's the only one to work with it or something. He must feel like that because when he found out that Samson had, I guess, a group of adults, that were thriving, was trying to add a male to that so that he could work with this colony or whatever. Right. And I had one shipped over to him. He lost it. So that's what that was about. The attacks on, and you can say, I mean, if you want to throw away Reach Out Reptiles, Garrett Hartle and everything because I shipped the guy the animal, then I'll live with that. That's what you got to do. I think it's the same thing that you would say if someone was like, I got to throw out MJ because I don't believe in snake racks. I mean, you'll lose people for that, right. Being supported by, and I've shouted out, Freedom Breeder and all that kind of stuff. I think that they're a great family. They do awesome stuff, and I've seen it year in, year out forever, But yeah. So, anyways, this guy with his time, with his money, whether it's an animal abuse thing, a domestic abuse thing, whatever ties he's trying to make, whether it's like a hate USARK thing, whatever it's been over the years, you just, I don't know. I've always ignored it. I've always done nothing about it. But the guy takes his, like, if I send money to somebody like Eric Lee, let's say, for example, the Superdorf Snow King, Eric.
Real deal.
Yeah, I always like to be like, oh, really? Oh, okay. I don't know, but whatever. Like, hey, he makes some amazing Superdorf snow stuff. I'm not too proud to admire your animals, even publicly online when I see them. Every now and then I'm like, whoo, smoke show, you know what I'm saying, or whatever the case may be. But if you send money to Eric Lee, what is he doing with that time and the money? You know what I mean? Eric, you're a family man. You have an amazing wife. You're building a giant facility, playgrounds for your snakes, all this kind of cool stuff. And I can take pride in being a part of your support community.
Yeah.
I feel like, people that want to support us on Patreon and Reach Out Reptiles do the same thing. This other guy, what does he do with his time and money? And you can talk about Reach Out Reptiles. You can talk about other people that this guy goes after a lot of different people throughout the years, and if you're newer, I don't know how much you've seen it, or if you're outside the actual retic community, I don't know how much you've seen it. But if you've been around or you're in the retic community, the guy's made you tired before even just watching him go after other people that aren't you. It becomes exhausting, So,
and there's also people who are just like that, who have the time on their plate to put that much energy into that hate,
Yes.
But like I said, the only thing that wears me down on this whole shabacle is the Samson Pruitt, because you want to know what's happening now, Garrett? All these people are gathering these photos, and there's all this, and it's it's disgusting, man. I'm getting, and I've already seen photos from like old photos, but now it's like his old workers and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, I don't know. I just I know you didn't vote with your dollar, but you still sent him something, and I just don't want. I can't tell you what to do, Garrett, but I wish you would never send that guy anything ever again, because it's like, it just really bothers me, because, and like I said, it's none of my business, but it bothers me that this guy could even still go to a show, set up and vend, and still sell stuff. Also bothers me that he's claiming to have SD stuff that he doesn't have, and really, like, diminishing what he's doing and what you're doing. And so I don't know. I'm an emotional guy. We all know this. I do take things personal really easily. So this is why I'm trying to like take a deep breath on this and just kind of tell you where I'm coming at, Garrett. In my eyes, you're Garrett Hartle. You could do no wrong other than send Samson Pruitt a snake. That's all I'm saying.
I hear that.
That's it.
No, I hear that, and I consider that. That's good. You know what I mean? I take that. If you want to go talk more about like people being, you know, cut off or thrown out and all this other kind of stuff, you know, this other guy, that the kind of toxic trend or whatever that he said in the industry, and you know, for whatever it is, that's something that I have chosen not to support anymore. So I had some calls, which I did in person. You know what I mean? It wasn't like block button or whatever. I'm old school. I like to call people, especially if I have an issue with you. You know what I mean? Like, let's call, let's talk, let's, you know, have this or whatever before I don't go out and talk about people online. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. So, you know, we had certain people that were still in business transactions, dealing money back and forth, whatever, benefiting this other person. That was something that I said, listen, if you guys are gonna, like, I have to not support you with our, whether it's our platform or money or, you know, whatever, as you support him. Because when he gets support like that, what he uses it for is to sit at home and make videos that target USARK, that target my staff, that target things like that. And I can't support that anymore. You come out of that situation, you do better, you move on, let's work together. You know what I'm saying? You do that, you continue doing that, that would be another thing. So I guess it's like one thing, it's like this, MJ. Let's say you found out that I sent an animal to Samson, right? And you say, Garrett, don't do that. Don't ever do that again. Or we can't work together. And I say, okay, I'll never do that again. Where do you sit? Versus if you say, hey, you know, I don't know where I'm going with it. I'm trying to explain your question about, you know, voting with your dollar and where does it go?
Because listen, at the end of the day, you're making a really good example here, because you have people that may have been doing some business with this individual that maybe weren't, not on purpose. Like, they're like, holy shit, like maybe they want an opportunity, like, Garrett, I'm so sorry. I understand where you're coming from. Let me not do this again. And mind you, if it takes a month, a year for you to be like, okay, I see it, and that's fine, right? But that same shit should go for the Samson thing. And what I mean by that, for the people who are bothered in your own community that you did this with Samson, I think with your own people, you should step up and say, I'm never going to fucking send this guy anything ever again. And I'm sorry. I just think it goes both ways in that sense. You don't want people spending money with this individual. Okay. And I think a lot of people would never, ever want you to even have any sort of trade interaction or let me be a middle person for this guy Samson ever again. I wouldn't you say that's kind of fair?
Yeah, I think it's fair. Sure. So, I mean, here's what we'll do. I think a lot of people have had to deal with negativity in the industry, you know, people going at each other's throats, all that kind of stuff. So here's what I'll do. Everybody has my contact information. You can get a hold of us over at Reach Out Reptiles at any time. If you want to, say, Garrett, you should never do business with Samson again. And you can start it off if you want, MJ. I mean, go ahead and do it. I'm about the thickest.
I'm already like, listen.
Well, you're there, but you know what I'm saying? All I'm saying is I'm inviting anybody that they're bothered by that I've done over to Samson. Go ahead and shoot me an email. Is that fair? Then I'll know. How did people do this? How did that hurt? How did that, what was the impact of that action? Do you know what I'm saying?
It's probably, maybe it happened sometime in this life, but it's very uncommon, if not impossible, to get a real Louis Vuitton piece of luggage or designer wear at a flea market. Okay, so what I mean by that, it's like I look at Reach Out Reptiles when it comes to marketing, the way you present everything, the way you get a Reach Out Reptiles animal in the mail. second to none. Oh my God, I'll never forget when you showed me the box. So I feel like there's such a standard with Reach Out Reptiles, like holy shit. Like, you know what I mean? And I always want that standard to be where it's at. And that's why I'm even talking about this. I don't know. There's also glitches in the matrix sometimes. There's things that has happened that might not ever happen again. I would just hope I could go to bed at night knowing that no snake from Reach Out Reptiles would ever go to Samson Pruitt ever again, because that should not be the case. That's not be deserved. I don't, like I said, talking to you as a home, friend to friend, Garrett. That's all.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it, and like you said, sometimes there's a glitch in the matrix or whatever you do. We made a TK video, Kalatoa stuff. It was literally like a week before the Samson stuff. That was what it was about before that, right? That's what the hate was coming on.
And correct me, this guy's not even involved no more. Like, he's not. So this is kind of irrelevant that we're talking about somebody who has no involvement in the industry anymore. You know what I mean? So
yes,
history shouldn't be erased because of it. You know what I mean?
But I just want to give you a for instance on how I do stuff, because I'm not like a fireback, get into the dramatic.
You're not.
BS kind of a guy. You know what I mean? I think that the guy who's spewing hate over us is more concerned. I mean, you can say that he disrespects Samson for care of animals or something, but I think there's some part of them there, apparently from private messaging and stuff, respects the fact that he can probably get these animals to live, breed, thrive, and have babies. And I think that that's the more concern. I don't know what kind of, I know you've messaged the guy back and forth. Has it been like, hey, this is screwed up, this is going to mess up the market? And is that the concern? And so, or, if it's the TK thing or whatever, I mean, God forbid that I should sell a snake. Eric, you sell a snake today. It's a beautiful snake, right? Great bloodlines. I love the customer service. Everything was good. 10 years from now, something goes down with you. Does that translate? Does that make my snake worth less, or the experience? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not talking about supporting people who do bad things. Animal abuse is horrible. That's deplorable. It shouldn't be defended. It's disgusting and everything else. But when this same guy was trying to say that we support domestic violence, we dedicated our next live stream to raising support for domestic violence, to try to take the bigger, the higher road, or so to speak. Say, hey, look, there's a conversation going on about domestic violence. It's trying to be very negative right now. And that sucks. It's not even relevant. We're talking about a bloodline of snakes. And, here is this domestic violence which, of course, domestic violence is terrible, goes without saying, right? On the other hand, I actually learned a whole lot from it, So I thought it was really good. And there's, people that were making an issue out of it, because it was domestic violence and they were bad. And then there was other people that were trying to connect like some bloodline of a snake to domestic violence to make somebody look bad. You know what I mean? And I was like, let's take control of the conversation and take this back and do it well. And we actually, I think I have it here somewhere. We raised a bunch of money for a domestic violence hotline in the guy's neighborhood, tried to raise awareness. And oh my goodness, that I have so many conversations with people reaching out to me saying, thank you for doing this kind of stuff, all that kind of thing. I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm trying to say, like, how do we take the high road? How do you take the high road in that? You know what I mean? If you have somebody that is coming after you for years and years and years, right? They come after you, they come after everything that you do. And then if you ignore them, they go after the people that you love, or, like we support USARK, obviously. Everybody should, especially in light of actual animal abuse and serious issues that are going on in Florida right now, and all that kind of stuff. They go after you for all that stuff. You block them. You say, hey, just leave it alone. You know what I mean? Go get a life. And then what do you do from there? What's the high road? What's your thing?
Here's my thing, Garrett. This guy who's been coming after you for a while, and I don't know. I mean, I want to say at least 2 years since I've seen rants, and I'm talking rants where it's like almost kind of. I mean, it's kind of like, holy shit, what's he going off about now? Like, and that's been the case for this whole time until this Samson thing. This, like I said, even the whole abusing. What the fuck? What are you supposed to? What are you getting at with that? That makes no sense. That has nothing to do with Reach Out Reptiles. So far fetched to where, like, I mean, yeah, you definitely took the higher road by doing that fundraiser for that cause, but it wasn't necessary at all. Like, because that has, I mean, that's just you being that guy, and that was awesome, right? But all like, and this is my thing too. Like, how many people within my own little community where I've had people accusing me of being a bully, and you know, whatever, they might have been right on some cases, but like also bringing up other things that are just like goes from just being far-fetched to where like, well, you did do that one thing where fuck all the far-fetched shit now it's all about this one thing. So what's happening right now, Garrett, is all this far-fetched shit that this guy's been doing that has been making him look like he's been off his rocker. No offense, guy. I'm being real, man. Like, a lot of shit that you go in on things, it's kind of like, whoa, where's this, right? Like I'm saying, all it takes is this one eye-opening thing to where everyone stops and looks around and go, well, why would he do that? And I think that's and so what I'm saying is, even after this podcast, you already said what you said about this situation. I feel like I'm ready to move on now, but I'm saying though, even after this podcast, this guy's not going to stop. It's going to go to the next thing. Obviously, sure, this hater is not going to stop coming at you, but that's just, it's life. And that's what happens when you create a legacy like you're creating. At the end of the day, man, you got a lot of people who back you up. You're looking at two of them right here. And I, like, there's nobody on Reach Out Reptiles level, and I mean that with all due respect. You are creating a monster of a legacy with these reticulated pythons that nobody, like, you're very impressive with your work, Garrett, and that's what's important. After everything being said right now, that's what's important is the legacy of Reach Out Reptiles, and I always want to keep that standard for you. And I hope you're okay with me venting about all this with you tonight. But you know, I just your work is too pure. Like, you work too hard. Like, I just, you know, and just to put other people in their feelings who support you over this, like, you know, I just hope I could clear some stuff up. That's all.
Well, I hope it does. And anybody that's questioning it, like I said, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to talk through it with anybody. And I know that this is that guy, Samson, is a sticking point for you in particular, MJ. You know what I mean? And I know that. Like, again,
I love dogs.
I love dogs too. You know what I'm saying? Dogs. I love dogs, and animal abuse is horrible, deplorable. That's awful.
I love Garrett too, by the way. Shout out to Chip Indo. Chip Indo's a good guy. You know,
Chip is a very good guy. Yes.
Okay, now
hold. Wait, I actually, before you go though, Eric's been smiling in the background the whole time. I want to hear what's your take on it. You know what I mean? Because next week someone's gonna hate us because we use tubs, or hate us because we do use UVB or don't use UVB, or incubate a certain way, or whatever the case may be. Anything that is like trending and bad that someone can throw at the wall and see what sticks. I think that's a matter of what's happening here. But you've been around for a long time, Eric. What's your take on the whole situation? What do you think I should do?
I think you're handling it the way you should be, because at the end of the day, it's like, you know, your brand, your standard is what sets you apart. So if you start, you know, retaliating, doing something equivalent or higher, you know, it makes you look bad, you know, and it's unprofessional in my opinion. It's one thing when you're attacking you and you can kind of brush it off, but you get to the point where at some point you have to say something, especially once your employees are involved and this and that, and it goes beyond, hey, I just like Garrett, or just like Reach Out Reptiles. So yeah, I think you handle it as professionally and as civilly as any human being possibly could.
Yeah, you know, the truth of the matter is, you know, as far as like online badgering and stuff goes, it is fairly easy to ignore. I think you and me usually approach it in pretty much the same regard. Like, I know that you've run into the same guy before, you know, and had problems. I think you run pages that he's gotten kicked off for the same thing. Stop hating on somebody. You got to quit now. Hey, you're not quitting. Okay, you're gone, right? That kind of stuff. And it's just no BS, and you move right on, and that's what it is. And that's typically what we do. I mean, we're here for, I think, the same reason that you are, Eric, just trying to make cool snakes, help people understand like actual information about them, help them out, raise the bar in keeping and the community and everything else, bringing people together. We've tried a lot of different things, a lot of new things to try to make all that stuff work.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, you know, MJ, if you want to disagree with me on this one, you know, you're absolutely welcome to it. And I'll take that to heart because you are a good friend, you know? And I think that we've had conversations where I've called you from the opposite side, like MJ, you know, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that. You know what I mean? And I hope you see those conversations as more than just, hey, listen, I'm a casual observer on your on-screen life over here, and this is what I think you should do. It's more like, hey, buddy, there's something going on. My take on the outside is this. I think this is maybe something you should correct.
Right.
Never, you know. And so, my turn. I accept.
Well, you know, listen, thanks for being a man about it. And I got to tell you, you know, some of the things that's always been difficult for me to accept, Garrett, is like understand with Jay, right? Like I got prepared about Jay by somebody I look up to still to this day a lot. And like he told me, like, oh man, you know, like don't go to that breeder room. If you go to that breeder room, you're gonna see this, and that. And I'm like, okay. Sure enough, I stumbled across, went back there, and that's where everything happened. But mind you, the person who prepared me for this and laid it all down, like he still does collabs with him. Like he's like, hey, I'm gonna prepare you about this guy, and you're gonna be blown away, and it's disgusting. But at the end of the day, I still fuck with him, and that right there is what confuses me. I go, well, why? Like, you're cool with this, and it's like there's like a realm I feel like of certain people where it's all about the following they need to keep, the algorithm they need to be in, and that's why. Like, hey, I'm going to tell you this, but it's more of like, I'm not going to go public that I don't like this. I'm just going to tell you. And this is like me branching to the next thing that I want to talk about is, Garrett, we talked about how much work you're putting in with USARK. Like, you are the USARK spokesman, right? You're doing the most, not only with the super dwarf and the dwarf locality-specific stuff with reticulated pythons, but even with USARK, man, you're a great inspiration. Like, but why, like, Garrett, no offense, but you have people you're friends with that have a bigger reach than you. They have millions, right? But there's no association with USARK. Your buddy Jay. How come Jay's never been a part of USARK or anything that we have going on when he has probably the biggest platform when it comes to animals? And that's another thing, too. It's like I'm tired of the fakeness. Like, why say you support something when you're not helping? And it's just very confusing, buddy. And this is why, goddamn, some of the things I wish I would have kept my mouth shut about, but I'm an emotional, transparent person. And I speak because a lot of people are business smart and they don't want to speak. And they're like, I got it. And me, I write my own checks, kind of. But I'm just saying, like, I don't give a shit. Like, I want to, if it makes MJ feel a type of way, I want to say it. So that's what makes me in this, right?
Yeah.
So it's just very confusing, Garrett. Like, you know, it's and like I said, I'm not putting you in that situation where it's like, man, you're telling me to be careful about something, but you support that.
Yeah.
That's the stomach twist right there. You know what I mean?
Let me give you my philosophical view on life. I think if you put it in this context, it might make more sense, right? I don't know that my brain operates the same way as everybody else in the world because every time I talk like this, nobody understands. So you may not get this either. But this is the way I see it. You know, here's Jesus over here and here's Satan over here. And the rest of us are somewhere in between. I'm certainly no Jesus, not a perfect person, right? Probably not as bad as Satan himself either. And I don't think that anybody else is. Do I have to make those judgments? Do I have to do this kind of stuff? I mean, my basic human base level assumption, whether I'm coming into a conversation with you or anybody else on the planet, is that you're going to have strengths and weaknesses, you know, things that you're really good at and things that you're terrible at, you know, and that could be like the amount that I love somebody is not even based on that. Like I love my wife. You're married. You're about to have a kid, by the way. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So yeah, talk about a life-changing perspective. That's going to be
pretty phenomenal for you.
Hey, Garrett, there could be this is legit historical statement right now. There could be a time and place because of what's coming where I might not give two shits about this whole like MJ might just stop calling shit out. And before I get to that, I want to like let it all out now, buddy. You know what I mean?
Buy a motorcycle too while you're at it or something. All of a sudden you have to be safe when you're a dad, or at least get a fat life insurance policy. I don't know. But no, my perspective on it is this, you know, calling stuff out and saying things the way it is that you see it is one thing, but I don't know that you, like me personally, if somebody, a guy called me out once, he said, I'm not going to buy a snake from you, in so many words. I'm so horribly paraphrasing. So if you're the person who said this and you're listening and I butcher this story, take it for entertainment value. We'll call that one hardalized. But he basically is like, yeah, you know, if you're going to be friends with Kevin, then I can't buy a snake from you. And then he gave me a list of other things. Like, I think you handled the snake too rough in a video. I think you don't have enough humidity in your closures, whatever. These are all the reasons I'm disappointed with you as Reach Out Reptiles. And I sat down and I categorically went through and I answered it. A lot of the staff that were personally insulted by things that he said, you know, like Rob loves the snakes downstairs and he does his very best to take care of those animals. He cares very much about them. You would not put them in I mean, you had him on your show, just Rob, because you're so impressed with the guy, right?
Yeah.
So, but I can tell you right now, Rob's not perfect either. Right. You know what I mean? If you find out something that he did that you disagree with or you don't like as an adult human being, I don't know that you should like hate him because of that, write him off because of that, or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of where it's at. I'm no Jesus. I'm no Satan. That isn't it. Maybe this is a case of don't meet your heroes, or you only saw the curated version of Garrett, which I know isn't true because I know you. We've spoken personally many times. You know what I mean? Hung out together in a lot of different scenarios. But anytime that you have done things, you have a very different approach to life than I do. Both of us are very passionate about the reptile community and the animals themselves. And so all the other stuff that goes away, when I know I'm going to go talk with MJ, we can connect on these two things in a really incredible way. You know, that we care very much about the reptile community, people like Forrest, you know what I mean? Who, like, we still do like charity breedings and stuff to set up a college fund for his kid. You know, I mean, you know about all that kind of stuff. So we connect about people in the community, connect about the animals themselves. Always have. That's been great. The way you run other areas of your life or operation vastly differ from my own. You know, but I don't see this as like a threat or something where you have to be exactly like me so that we can talk or, you know, be friends, talk about different stuff, things like that. There are things that Kevin does that I don't agree with. And when I answered this guy in the email, I was like, no, we don't handle the animals too rough. This is standard snake handling. We don't want to be over gentle with an animal. Like, we're not doing anything to injure the animal. But when we talk with a snake in our hands like this or something, that's desensitization for the next person. Snake's very comfortable in that situation because I do that all the time. Right. You know, going down there. Yeah. Okay. I can see how my ventilation might not work for you in the Southwest where it's super dry. I live in Pittsburgh. I can't get enough humidity out of the enclosures. So we over ventilate them to try to keep the humidity out of the enclosures because the snakes are always wet, and that's not good either. Right. And Kevin, there are a lot of things that Kevin does that I respect very much as a person. And then there are other things that Kevin does that I'm like, I don't think he should be doing that. My take is Kevin and I have a great relationship. I can call him. We text back and forth on the phone. We try to support each other. And as a friend of his, as somebody who comes to him from like a loving and supportive, you know, direction, I can tell him things that other people might not be able to tell him. If they came to him as internet hate, he's going to write it off, never change, nothing happens, you know. But if I say, you know, Kevin, right, or MJ, I love you, I respect you. What you did right here was wrong, in my opinion. You just did the same thing on this video right here. You guys can rewind it and watch it again. This one thing was wrong. You can't do that one thing. I love you. I love everything about you. Don't do that one thing anymore. You know, if you were any other person, I'd be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't tell me what to do. Who are you? Internet hater? You're probably a 12-year-old commenting behind the screen.
You would block me?
I know you.
You're saying you would block me. You'd kick me out of your Patreon page if I did that?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, but listen, guys, can I tell you one thing, Garrett?
Yes.
I mean, one thing.
Tell me one more thing.
No, I'm gonna tell you more than that.
Oh.
So let me tell you why I love. You want to know the number one thing I love about Kevin?
Okay.
Kevin comes to bat for USARK shit all the time, and when he does. He knows how to rally people. That's why I love Kevin. What's crazy why I love this industry is I'm realizing how much we need each other. People need each other. Garrett, you're very good at networking and building relationships with some of the highest people in this industry. If you go to Kevin and you ask Kevin, I need you for this USARK piece, whatever. Kevin's on board, 110%. What has happened when you've gone to Jay? Have you gone to Jay?
With USARK stuff?
Any USARK stuff, like anything. Like I said, Kevin was on a live right now. Before we got this going, Kevin started live.
Yeah, he was live.
Over 400 people, and that's not the only time he does that. He'll just start a live and start talking about USARK stuff because the guy's that fired up, right? So it's like that's what I love about Kevin. Like, say what you want, but he will come rally for us. He'll be that Phil Goss that's a reptile keeper. You know what I mean? That's how I look at Kevin. Like that's why I respect him to death. But also he has many other things where I'm like, holy shit, what'd you just do right now? So either way, you got your goods and bads, but Kevin is good overall, I feel like, no matter what. Because he's here to help us. He cares about the people. I just don't understand when it comes to this truth of people needing each other, where has been the connection where the biggest influencer in the animal industry has no evidence of being a part of USARK or supporting USARK or coming to Garrett Hartle for a news update or whatever. Like, imagine if we just had more Garrett Hartles helping USARK is what I'm trying to get at. You know what I mean?
So to be perfectly honest with you, I haven't talked to Jay about supporting USARK. You know what I mean?
Why though? But why? There has to be a reason why though.
Why I haven't gone to him?
Yeah,
no,
I mean, that's the biggest. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I don't think I've ever held that over anybody. Hey, you better do a video for USARK channel or else. I've never done that. It's like, hey, I would love if Jay wanted to make a video for USARK. I've called people and said, hey, can you do this? Have you done that? All that kind of stuff. Some people are super busy. There's some people that are like huge followings that I respect very much that don't have videos on USARK channel. You know what I mean? And it's for a number of different reasons. Some of them are very mundane, like they're super busy. Their person didn't tell them about it, whatever the case may be. And I'm not really here to like judge them why they're doing it, why they aren't doing it or whatever. I'd love to have Jay make a video and put it up on USARK. There's other people who might say something like Jay's a stain and I now hate USARK because they put a Jay video up there. Right? I mean, that was basically kind of like the Samson thing. If you said everyone that has ever got an animal or sent an animal to Samson, I'll never talk to you again, then you cut yourself out a lot. Samson's done a lot of networking throughout the industry. You know what I'm saying? And that's a good example of like good and bad in a single human being, right? Like, so Samson's had a past that is super shady and he's had to deal with it for that a long time. You know what I mean? Like I said, anything to do with animal abuse is deplorable. I'm not 100% sure on the facts of like what was done, what wasn't done, what was accused, what was a lie, that kind of stuff, internet drama. Because I stay out of it, a lot of times I'm kind of ignorant to a lot of the facts, as to like what happened back then or what's going on. I'm also like, like the guy that got arrested for domestic violence. I don't know anything about that story other than whatever was shared from a newspaper thing. Like, I have never talked to him personally. I do know people in his family and stuff. Haven't heard of that kind of stuff because I'm not like, hey, what's the dirt on so-and-so? Tell me the dirt on so-and-so so I can see if I'll ever deal with them again or not. You know what I mean? I've just never been that kind of person. So, yeah, I mean, if Jay wants to come on, I mean, obviously he's a huge following. It would actually be much better for him to shout out USARK on his platform than to come on to USARK's platform because USARK's platform is very small. They're super important to all of us, but it's since volunteering, the one thing I'll say is that everybody talks really good about USARK, but when it comes to like the actual time to do support, there are a few people who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and then there's other people that go the opposite way and just make everything a nightmare for USARK as they try to help the very people who are doing it. So anyway, I don't know. That's neither here nor there, but I guess my thing is like, there are good things and there are bad things. You were saying that you like the stuff that we do in the industry, right? That some of the ideas, unboxings, community support, whatever it is that we do. What I will tell you is this: I am driven personally towards personal growth. I hope I never get to a point where I'm like, I'm so perfect, I don't have to listen to anybody anymore. I hope I never get there. I'm constantly trying to learn from everybody. My saying is always like, let's say, Eric, remember the last time we went herping in Phoenix together and it was your nephew, right? I'm not talking about Ryan. I'm talking about, what was his name? Xander. Yes. Thank you. And how old was he when we went herping? Like probably 11.
Something like that.
That's
really young.
Andrew, sick ass name.
Oh yeah. No, sick ass guy too. You know what it is, a perfect fit. So anyways, I'm sitting there with Xander and he was telling me, do you remember we found a road crushed coach whip? And he's telling me about ants and all the signals they use as he's like, ants are carrying off this corpse of this snake that we stopped to look at on the road. And I'm thinking like, holy crap, kid, like, you know a lot about ants that I don't know about, that was really it. And he's like little factoid, just firing the stuff off. The truth of the matter is Eric's 11-year-old nephew has 11 years of personal life experience that I can never possibly hope to get for myself. I could live to be 1 million and not have his 11 years of personal experience. So if there's something that I can learn from him in that moment and apply it to my life for personal growth, I will. That's one way that you can look at somebody. If you assume that there's good and bad to everybody, what is it that you can learn? One thing that I will say about Samson, good, is that, oh my gosh, I don't know anybody who has gotten more violent hate except maybe Barcheck, who's another good friend of mine that I love very much. You know what I mean? There's gotten that level of hate before and still been able to not take the road of like, that's it, I'm going to go live off the grid in a cabin and never talk to a human being again. I hate people. I don't know how he does that. That is crazy. If you've ever had a conversation with him, aside from whatever stuff that he's done, and you can even talk about that stuff if you want, it is amazing how he's there. He's attentive, like looks in your eyes when he talks. He's listening to you, tries to support you. There's a lot of other things that I disagree with him on. I'll say this. I almost categorically disagree with Samson on everything. He always jokes that we're one of his haters. You know what I mean? Because everything that he says, especially about dwarf retics and stuff like that, I'm like, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true, or whatever. But it's amazing to how like supportive he is in a conversation. Maybe he needs to do that because he does a lot of sales at shows in person and stuff like that and talks people into it. But it's a serious skill that he's honed over the years. And I'd love to learn that from him and take that from him. Our unboxing experience is from something totally outside of the industry. There are good and bad things. You know Forrest. I love Forrest very much. Every time we had a video together, we would go like head to head and just argue about stuff. Have you ever seen any of those old videos with me and Forrest?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. That's what made me like respect the fact that there was somebody who would challenge Forrest. Like, because Forrest was like, he was a good talker. He would just kind of just convince you what he believed in. And
he was very aggressive. He was very in his face.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to listen to somebody who's coming at you like that. You know what I mean? Me, on the other hand, like, I don't know. I don't mind going to toe-to-toe with somebody like that if it's a topic that I am passionate about or know about or whatever. But I would honestly rather listen to the person and see if there's anything. I'm always picking apart. I'm like, what's the BS and what's the real thing? My football coach told me in high school, he's like, if someone's making fun of you, it's the best opportunity that you have to grow as a person. Because all of your friends and your little echo chamber are going to be like, you're wonderful, you're wonderful. And those are great. And sometimes we need that support, especially when we're going through it. We need it a lot. But you'll grow more from somebody telling you what they hate about you. And then you can take it and you say, is it true? Is it not true? Garrett, you support domestic violence. Well, okay, clearly that's not true. Give me a break. You know what I mean? And I can write it off and just completely ignore the person. That's what my coach said to do. He's like, if there's someone making fun of your name, you know what I mean? Xander, that's a funny name, or something like that. It means they have nothing else on you. You know what I'm saying? If they got to go that low or make these wild, crazy stretches to try to attack you on something, especially if it's something like, I don't know, like I said, Samson thing. Yeah, I sent him an animal. So did everybody else that we've talked to in this podcast or whatever, all that kind of stuff. So you're going to have to cut off everybody because the guy's not everybody, but.
You sent Samson a snake here? Say that one more time. Yes or no? Did you send Samson a snake here?
No.
Okay, not everybody. But yeah, I get
what you're saying. But at the end of the day, too, it's kind of like
what can you learn? What can you take from people and learn? I mean, everybody, if they're bad, it's the more different they are from you, then the more you have to learn from them. Honestly.
I mean, there's some people that here's the thing, you got to determine who's worth your time talking to and who's not worth your time talking to.
Sure.
You could be a yes man or yes woman to this person who hates you, and it still wouldn't change anything. And that's what I'm getting at. Like I feel like you could go ahead and switch anything. Like, okay, I'm out here to say, shame me, I sold the snake to Samson, or shame me, TK line, whatever. It's something else will still come up. It's never going to stop. You know what I mean?
Sure.
At the end of the day, though, like I just rather, say whatever you want to say about Garrett, but he's not sending no snakes to Samson. That's all. I want to have that kind of like belief in me. That's it. You know what I mean? Because like I said, it's kind of like, why did I just go get this Louis Vuitton, aka Reach Out Reptile fucking box? This because dude, mind you, nobody documents the shit like you do. You have hashtags for specific snakes. Garrett, you go so far and beyond what Samson can even dream about. You know what I mean? Like it's like a whole nother level. You know what I mean?
I think you're also getting worked up because you've been seeing memes posted daily about this, as though it's happening daily about this. I mean, the level of that conversation, I'll tell you, is basically like, hey, I've got these ternates or whatever. I'd like to add another male. I knew somebody that was getting rid of a male. They didn't want it anymore. So I was like, I know somebody with a male. I'll ship it to you. That's it. The time that I talked to him previous to that was, I don't know. I was actually because he called me because of someone else, drama or whatever, calling, talking to me, which, by the way, I'm not a very good person to talk to if you need someone to like listen empathetically. Like, I love you, I care about you, all that kind of stuff. But I'm just not that. I'm always like, well, here's the logical solution I think that you should take. Like, I am a very like kind of an unfeeling person towards other humans. It's always like everything's like a puzzle to solve. Like, my wife hates it. She's like, I just want to tell you about my day. And I'm like, here's what you should do. You should call this person, and you should do this, and you should do that. She's like, shut up. Stop solving my problems. I just want you to listen. Like the quintessential, you're a chauvinistic, pig-headed husband argument, right? That's me to a T. So, but anyways, yeah, that's the extent of it. So, I mean, honestly, if it bothers you that much, MJ, then I'll trade you a 1-for-1. How about we do this? I will never again send any animals to Samson ever again. And I'll say it here on a live stream or whatever so that you can hear this. So from this day forward, you can say, and Garrett Hartle at Reach Out Reptiles will never send Samson an animal. And that makes you happy or whatever, because it's not like we don't have ongoing business together. I didn't even sell him the animal. I was like, here's one that needs a home. You know what I mean? That's the way I saw it. So, but I'll do that. And then you have to give me like write it on a little piece of paper. Give me like an IOU so that when I say, hey, this thing that you did that I think is wrong, MJ, you need to consider this one seriously. Is that fair?
Yeah, but hold on. I want to pause this right now because I'm looking out for you, buddy. Like I feel like you think like this is for MJ sat. No, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you, Garrett. If you still want to send shit to Samson,
yeah,
and I don't mean shit. I mean good. I'm not gonna fucking block you. Oh fuck no, dude. I'm still your boy. Here's the thing. I'm still your boy. But you have people who have in financial investments with you, emotional investments with you, to where it's gonna bother them I'm just looking after you as a whole, like the cleanliness of Reach Out Reptiles. I want to make sure there's no bird stain shits on it. Like I'm over here just doing what I got to do to make sure that fucking logo is amazing. I love the logo, but I want that logo to be as clean as possible. And whatever. I mean, yeah, sure. It better be on the same level as animal abuse. That's all I got to say. Whatever you want me to think, that's all I got to say, buddy.
If I found out any animals I sent Samson were being abused, I would be very upset. And that's not okay. I'm not of the thinking that any animal that the guy touches is going to be abused. I don't think that, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know everything. I'm not magic. I will say this. If you expect Reach Out Reptiles to be super squeaky clean and whatever that you can look up to us, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Some people do some things well and other things not so well. You know what I mean? Our style is not squeaky clean perfect. My wife calls it crappy chic. It's like shabby chic, but more just crappy. Bro, you know what I mean?
You have the best display at any show you vend at, okay?
And the first time I vended, somebody said that trash, that display looks like it was made out of the trash. And everyone's like, how could you? He put so much creativity and effort into it. And I was thinking, oh, they're not wrong. When I broke a piece on the way in, I literally went out back and pulled a chunk off of a pallet and screwed it onto my booth. So at least that part of it was literally taken out of a dumpster and patched on there to make it work. I'm much more of like a figure out the solutions and move it forward guy than the perfect reputation guy. If everyone thinks that I need to have the perfect reputation to be in the industry, that would seem a little bit crazy to me. If they're like, I won't support you if you're not perfect, but I will support this one person over here that we all know is a dirtbag.
Yeah.
That would be the disconnect. And honestly, my thing is like, you could be a dirtbag 90% and there's still 10% I could learn from you. You could be a child that doesn't know anything 90% and there's still 10% I could learn from you. You know, so if it's about personal growth and stuff like that, that's what it is. You know, I think sometimes me personally, I have, I'm stuck in the dishes of design all the time. Eric, when you are breeding pure Kalatoas, let's say, for example, you and I have sent pictures of our babies back together. And for a minute, MJ, you got to shut up. Maybe we'll cash the thing in right now. I want to talk to Eric for a second.
Sounds good. I'm listening.
Cashed in. There it is. All right.
Yeah.
Animal abuse level, how much you talk over Eric. I'm just saying. Eric, we send pictures of babies back and forth, right? Yep. And if it's a morph, it's one thing. It's like, whoa, it's an albino. It's bright colors, you know. But it's another thing if it's like, dude, look at this Kalatoa. It's got almost a perfect stripe head to tail, right? Or like its pattern is a little bit thinner than the pattern on this one. And most people would have to like look at it under a microscope to even see what you're talking about. Like how we pick out holdbacks on an animal that changes as much as it does as a pure Kalatoa from hatchling. That's like this little brown baby that's so small you can't even see the details of it to an adult. That's beyond me, how we pick those holdbacks. I don't know. But you and I, the reason I would assume that you text me those pictures when you hatch those things is because you have somebody on the other end of the phone who could be like, holy crap, I see exactly what you're talking about. You know what I mean? I, too, have spent 14 years staring at patterns look like this. And then when it looks like this, I just freak out. You know what I mean? Am I right?
Absolutely.
So the philosophy. Yeah, and I mean the way to look at it is like when you do that stuff long term, or you're trying to do those things, whether it's like, you know, specifically in the animal, let's say, that's design, that's selective breeding and all that kind of stuff. You're acting as a designer, and with design, you're trying to innovate. You're like, maybe this will work. No, maybe that'll work. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. I don't know. And then over time, it's kind of like bumper bowling. You know, the lane gets tighter and tighter, and then you figure out something that works, and then it can be life-changing when you figure that out. A lot of us have heroes as reptile breeders that have honed a specific trait. You know, the one that, I don't know why, but like the most clear to me, obviously it's you, Eric, with your snows. But the one that pops out in my mind all the time is Shane Costello. because he's like, I like sunfire and orange snakes. And he's just been doing that ever since. And when you have all this like other stuff going on in the industry in the background here, he's like, this one has 3 more scales orange than the orangest snake I've ever had. You know, or it's like, I have to hold all of these back to see which one I like the most in 2 years. Absolutely. You know, yeah. And you get into these like crazy design things. And I think that's honestly more where my mind goes, whether it's breeding, it's community too. It's like, how can we make the best community? And we do a lot to support our community. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, that's it. How can we support the community? Because we rely on their support in return, you know?
Right.
And
but be more honest.
Sure. I
think that's the biggest thing is honesty. Like no smoking mirrors type situation. I'm saying all around the board. You know what I mean? Because if it's one thing people are really gun ho about right now, is how they're upset that Brian Cusco is joining us. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
Can't see nothing.
Talk about new fathers. Congratulations. Brian
Thanks.
Just had his baby. Beat you to it.
Thanks, sir. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to jump in here or not, but I made it happen. I was doing a live stream of my own before this one started, and one of my other children decided to, well, he didn't decide to, he accidentally dropped something on the surge protector that powers the, what do you call it? The router and the Wi-Fi and the
blacked out.
Yeah. So it's just like cut out. Like we're right in the spot where we're really going off about USARK, Florida, and like the situation down there with the, the animals that got killed down there. And it's like right at the pinnacle of that, and then the internet just cuts out. And I was like, what happened? I'm like trying to connect the Wi-Fi.
People jumped in the live chat saying that your stuff got copyrighted and they took it down or something.
Oh, right. That's the I meant to keep the smoke and mirrors thing going. That's the story I was going to go with. Yeah, we were getting so ramped up that FWC came in and shut down our live stream. That's what I meant to say.
What?
So that actually happened.
No.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Garrett, that's nuts, buddy. So they closed it down. So your YouTube just shut. What happened? What do you mean? I'm just kind of explaining what happened here.
I'm not being honest. I'm doing smoke and mirrors. That I just like the way you started feeding that story though. I kind of wanted to roll with it. Yeah, that's what happened after we shut down the live stream.
We were just talking about honesty, and here we go. You know
I said first that Eli dropped the thing on the surge protector. It shut off my Wi-Fi. That's what I said first.
All right. Listen, Brian, thank you for being here. It means a lot. Listen, we've been talking about a lot about Garrett Hartle, and just
why?
Because he's here.
It's better. I promise you, it's better to talk about him when he's not here.
But listen, at the end of the day, like if me and Garrett were talking about how many times, and obviously you could relate to this, times where I've been in situations where you guys have come to me with advice, kind of help me. Deliberate what's going on in my situation. In my case, I was, being called a bully and a bunch of stuff. And obviously you guys were both there, but now tables have turned in a way to where obviously this one individual is coming after Garrett. And to me, I don't see anything wrong Garrett's ever done, and except for this one situation. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole again, but this whole vote with your dollar thing, right, Cusco? Like I feel like that's something everyone likes to preach and talk about, but then
yeah, that's why I've never ever bought a snake from Reach Out Reptiles.
Wow, that's crazy.
Zero support.
But listen, the Samson, Samson being who he is to a lot of the people in the industry who knows this guy knows that he doesn't deserve to have any kind of animal. Garrett sent him an animal, and I think that was like the biggest issue for myself, I would say, but also from a lot of other people. And that's what we're just kind of getting clarification on, because I think Reach Out Reptiles, like Garrett will say, they're not perfect, but they are so next level. Like I think nobody does what Reach Out Reptiles does. And I think they should be proud of that. But this whole, what does it take for somebody to actually be like not connected to any of us anymore, no matter how bad of a thing they've done or whatnot? I don't know what it's going to take.
I mean, if we put everybody on the chopping block for what they've done and why do they deserve to be cut off, I think that most of us are screwed.
I agree. Yeah.
I certainly am. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Crappy chic, man. Crappy chic. What you call amazing, I call crappy chic. But maybe it's just because it's a comparison to those of us operating in the reptile industry. We have a long way to go. We do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And each one of us can, you know, like if we can my belief is we can incrementally have a difference, more so by inspiring people to do the right thing than by constantly pointing fingers at everybody that we think is doing this wrong.
Yeah. I just recorded a video that I'm putting out tomorrow morning that said exactly that. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that, honestly. I'm not going to make any more bad jokes anymore, I promise.
I mean,
but I really haven't bought a Reach Out Reptiles Animals just because he sends them to me for free, so I don't know what to do.
I've been known to do that. Sometimes people hate it.
Do you feel like enough people are coming together for this USARK Florida situation right now?
Feels like there's a good thing happening. It feels like there's a good momentum happening behind it. You know, it's unfortunate what the motivation was, you know, but yeah, it does seem like it's gaining some. Although I was reading a news article the other day, or not the other day, but today, about it, and it just seemed like they were saying some of the right things, but also just trying to justify. I don't know. It's interesting, but it does seem like it's getting plenty of attention, and a lot of people are paying attention to what happened, because it's hard not to, right? Well, that was disgusting. That's one of those things where it's like people watch it or people are paying attention because how horrifying was that?
Are you talking about it was a mainstream media story that you saw, Brian?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen any of those. I haven't looked them up.
Me neither. So like, it wasn't a Florida thing. This was out of Florida, what you saw, right? As far as the news stream.
Oh, I'd have to go back and pull it back up. Let me see if I can find it right now. Actually,
It's out of Florida.
It was about the situation in Florida, but I don't know where the publication was. I'm gonna see if I can find it out, because I was looking at it today, so it shouldn't be too far back, and I'll just read it verbatim. Let's see, what was this? But yeah, no, it's a Florida publication. It's called the Palm Beach Post.
Yeah.
So
see, my fear is like it's not going to get out of Florida news-wise. Like, it's just going to stay within Florida. You know what I mean? Because if this was dogs or cats, Brian, you know that would be the case already. It would be on Good Morning America. Like,
absolutely.
It'd be everywhere, and it would actually be a documentary on Netflix at the end of this week, for sure.
Right, and that's not surprising, because most people love cats and dogs. Whereas if you ask the general public how they feel about snakes, the majority will, I don't know about say hate, but the majority will not say I love snakes. That's for sure.
Or care to defend people's rights to keep them.
I bet the majority would feel bad. I mean, someone would actually just feel bad, and like that. No matter if you don't like something or not, the way these things were killed, any normal human being is gonna feel really terrible for this. You know what I mean? That's why I feel like it's important for it to get to that mainstream level, but I don't know if it will. I mean,
yeah, I'm not sure either. If a big enough noise is made, that's what it takes, really. I think for it to get to national, and it has to be enough noise made on that level to make it national.
So I'm gonna bring something up. Go ahead, Garrett.
If I can interject one bit of experience that I've had through all the like donating the time to the USARK channel and everything, is that point that you were saying right there, Brian, and just how important that is. People need to understand that USARK does not have the capability or capacity to fight everyone's battles for them in the United States and keep every bad thing from happening in the reptile industry. What they can do is warn us, like an early warning detection system. And they're also amazing, especially Phil, at coming up with like the right words to say and the right way to go about it, putting all stuff together, who to talk to, how to talk to them about it. But from there, it's like, here's the baton, pick it up and run with it. And as many people can have it as they want to, but it goes nowhere from here if it's just USARK fighting. It has to be picked up and channeled from somewhere. You know what I mean?
A bigger channel.
everybody that's involved, like you were saying, MJ, hopefully people that don't just hate snakes, like you're right. That was like, if you watch that video, it was gut wrenching, you know, especially when you hear like Chris's voice in the background. He's like, oh, I raised every one of those babies from an egg, you know, and he was trying to work with Fish and Wildlife. That was probably his first downfall. You know what I mean? Not that I'm recommending anything else, but the way they've handled it was deplorable. But my point is the video was gut wrenching. If everybody that didn't appreciate it got up and did something about it, there would be change. And that's what we need.
But what's the change we're really looking for here? Obviously, like for them to come forward and say, "Oh, we're so sorry, we're going to punish these officers," and that's it, or what's the actual change we need right now?
Changing legislation to where they're even allowed to do that.
So USARK filed a lawsuit against the state of Florida 2 years ago because of the actual legislation. You know, I don't want to misspeak on it, so everybody should go watch USARK's video on Friday. I'm going to interview Daniel and Phil Goss from USARK Florida and, you know, the national level, so that they can fill us in on like all of the details. It's easy when you are mad to like exaggerate a story and go crazy and run with it. And then you get a lot of like hyped up versions of a story. You know what I mean? It can build when people are upset about things. So it's important to get the facts, address the facts. There's definitely wrongdoing here. And that's the stuff that we want to approach. And there are different people to reach, and there are different ways to reach out to them. And USARK's videos, and in the description, we'll put all of that down there. It's been really fun watching. I don't know from where you guys sit, where you see it, but I feel great about USARK having a YouTube presence, because we can say, click the link in the description below, and they like click it and it downloads a letter and they send it and it puts their senator's name in there. You know what I mean? They pick it off and they send it. And it's been a really powerful tool to get more of those letters sent, because it's like, we literally sat down and we did one video where I had my 10-year-old, or they think she was 11 at the time, 11-year-old daughter, sit down and follow the instructions. And we didn't cut, and we just watched her do it. And it took like 2 minutes for my 11-year-old to write her senator about a legal issue that was going on with reptiles, because of how good USARK made it, you know. And that's not me. I'm just standing in front of a green screen on a channel, you know. That's Phil and the whole team and all their work putting all that kind of stuff together and running for it. You know what I'm saying? And these are the things that is like, there's a lot of petty stuff that happens in the reptile industry, but this is not one of them. You know, what's going on down in Florida. This is something that
heavy, super heavy.
Oh, MJ, you and I can disagree on everything else, but like I said, we're passionate about the animals in the community, and both of them were horribly wronged in this situation, right? So like,
Terrible.
Anybody that's watching, you don't even have to be a fan of reptiles to see that was horrible and disgusting. You know what I mean? But spread the word. Lucas had a good idea in the super chat there. Send the link with the video context, the body of the email, to your local news station and see if you can get that shared. He's talking about, so the link is actually one that's put up. It's on USARK as well. USARK Florida, I think, put it up on their YouTube. So you can go grab that link of the video and send it to your local news station, because these things get picked up and regurgitated by that stuff, right? So, you know, that's just smart tactics. Get them regurgitating. Like, the more people who see that video, the more people are going to realize this is outrageous. You know, basically the thing that happened was they're like, this is never going to happen. Don't worry about it. Let's pass this law. And then as soon as it was passed, it happened to the nth degree.
Yeah. I got a question for you guys. Do you guys think that there's any possibility of berms being eradicated from the Everglades?
I mean, I think it's possible.
You think it's possible?
I think so.
Okay. I guess I'm a lunatic. How do you think that would...
I remember I think we had to talk about, not me and you, but I had to talk about this with somebody at a reptile show and how impossible that would be. So I'm curious how that would be possible. Yeah, I want to hear this.
Well, that's what I was asking. If anybody had has an opinion that it is possible to eradicate Burmese pythons from the Everglades.
I think they have like a lesser foothold than something like the Caribbean anoles that live in Florida or something like that. They're like literally everywhere in the state. You can't even see a native one anymore. I mean, Burmese pythons are an easier target than a lot of species. And if there's one thing humans are good at, it's killing stuff, I
was just thinking about like the impassability of the Everglades. Like there's one road that cuts through like the thing, and like how do you, the rest of it's like impassable. I mean, even on fan boats, like it's hard to get through some of that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, the thing about it is, like, I don't know that they want them to be eradicated. And every time that they've pulled an eradication stunt, it's like a look at us, look what we're doing. This is going to eradicate Burmese. And they're like the python hunts and things like that they've done like a couple times and then made it as though it happens all the time and there's no stopping them and all this kind of crazy stuff.
Right.
I mean, they're really only I believe it's like the 4 southernmost counties in Florida that they're in. So if you can push them back, there are those pockets where they can hide out and hang, but I don't know. It kind of makes you wonder, like, why don't they have the cure to cancer yet? There's a lot of people that profit off that kind of stuff. And I do think there's people trying to cure that kind of stuff. Maybe you're getting into conspiracy theory territory there, but I think you could wipe them way back, especially if you work with the environment. I mean, every time they have one of those crazy cold spells in Florida, half of the tropical stuff dies anyways, So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The other reason I ask is because that seems like it's has been the main headline to get the general population behind. Okay. Yeah. Let's like put all these regulations in place to make it possible to go in and kill animals at a facility.
Well, it's hard that they're in a state park too. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, like, if I was in charge of the Everglades, I don't know that I would want to invite a bunch of yahoos to go kill all the pythons, because they're going to kill all the native species too. You know what I mean?
It might actually turn into a holiday like that rattlesnake roundup. You know what I mean?
They might kill all the boas. Who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, too soon. Is that? Oops. I mean, that's fish and wildlife killing a boa that they were told 10 times not to kill in a stack of python cages. How's anybody else going to stand a chance? I mean, if I turn one of my retics loose up here in Pennsylvania, I guarantee no one would call a retic. They would just say, I've seen the biggest copperhead I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like,
you just caught a snake ever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So overall, would you guys both say the best thing we can do regarding USARK Florida is just go ahead and contact the government, the governor over there in Florida, or what can we finalize on this for anyone listening out there?
Yeah, USARK makes it very easy to contact, and like Garrett said, Phil puts together lots of great language to where you can just kind of almost copy and paste, but just change it up a little bit so it's not the exact same thing. But yeah, that's all available has been available on USARK's website for a long time.
And on Friday, a video will go up that will we're going to dedicate the video to this issue, because it's obviously it's a big issue or whatever. So it'll have all the practical steps for what is currently the best thing that they can do. The other thing to realize too is, like, it's, we get really mad when we see this stuff, which is justified, obviously, but we just want to run out and punch somebody in the face. You know what I'm saying? That may not be the most effective thing. On the other hand, like I said, USARK's actually been working on this exact legal issue for 2 years. There's a lawsuit going against it. You know what I mean? So there's better ways to act, and you know what I mean? I would go through with the way that USARK is doing it, because they are our best shot in this industry of fighting these kinds of laws. You know what I mean? And so they definitely have been there for us in the reptile industry, very selflessly for a long time. So yeah, watch the video coming out on USARK on Friday, and it will be in full support of USARK Florida and all that kind of stuff, and show the links.
Yeah, Garrett, send me the link to that, and I'll put it in the description below, so people would just go down there and click on it.
All right, it'll be up on Friday. It's not quite there yet. So.
Yeah, well, listen. I have a wrap-up question for you two, okay, guys? And why don't we start with you here, Brian? One thing, like I said, I'm very thankful. Like, a gift of growing up that I've gotten in this reptile industry was like knowing how I need people, and it's better to work with people than almost against anyone. But for anyone out there who's having a hard time struggling, trying to surpass whatever issues they have with somebody, but getting to the serious point with the animals, because we're all in this together. If we all look at this, the animals connect us even more, right? How does somebody look at the bigger picture here, Brian? How do we get someone to just want to work more with somebody than against them?
Brother, I've been asking myself that question the entire time I've been involved.
Damn it. Well,
I have.
Asking you.
I wish I had the answer. I wish I had a good answer that cleared it up. It's a complicated world. It's a complicated just community. I mean, when you get more than like 10 people together try and get 10 people to all agree on something. Try to get 10 people to all agree on 3 things. I mean, that's doable. That's doable. It can happen if you get the right 10 people. We're talking about way more than 10 people. And to get everyone on the same page, I've pretty much thrown in the towel and said, okay, it's impossible. So we just got to move forward with it's such a hard question, dude. People have been asking it for a long, long time. This way before our time. I mean, you know, what was it? Malcolm X? Can't we all just get along? No, we can't.
and honestly, respect to that, because we had a conversation before you hopped on about like, if you don't feel good about something in your stomach, then cut it out. And I've been in that situation where I'm like, man, even though I feel like this person supports me, I'm seeing other stuff where that's not the case. So every time I just cut that person out, I just was able to move on better with my life. But is that wrong to do, or is that just go with your gut instinct type of thing? I mean, what do you do in that situation, Brian?
I always come back to the situation with what's going to be the most loving thing. And this is probably why you always call me a hippie, because of that mentality. But I want, because you can cut people out, but sometimes you do have to kick the dust off your feet, you know, and you can't throw your pearls before swine. Right. But you always want to come into any situation as humbly as possible, because that's the only way you're going to reach somebody. If you're trying to beat somebody over the head with your beliefs, that's not gonna work in most cases. You know, usually somebody's more trying to defend themselves from getting hit in the head. And if you want to really work with somebody, if you want to get on a vibe with somebody, if you want to get on a page with somebody, you need to listen to where they're coming from and hear them out, as to like ask questions and listen and understand why are you doing this? Why are you? And if you can't figure out why somebody's doing something, there's no way you're going to be able to inspire them to move in the direction you think it would be better for them, if you don't understand where they're coming from. So to understand where somebody's coming from in the first place is the first step to that. And that involves really caring, really actually having a love for that person, so you can listen from a place that cares and wants to know where they're coming from and why they're coming from that place. That's the first step to lead you down a successful road to being able to work with somebody or be able to have any influence on their life at all. Yeah. If they don't respect you, they're not going to listen to you. And if you can't listen to them, they're not going to respect you.
At a different time of your life, things might be different. You know what I mean? I feel like people shouldn't be so attached to something they don't feel right about. Like, it's okay to disconnect and just do what you feel like is necessary. Because at the end of the day, like, what's necessary is, you know, if you're responsible with animals like we all are, that's numero uno. Obviously the family too, but the well-being by these animals come first, right? I feel like that's the biggest flex any of us could have when it comes to being in the reptile industry. And you do that really well, Brian. I've been to your place. Beautiful collection that you have. And you're just passionate, Brian. Like I said, so many reasons why I love you more than being a hippie, right? Definitely. I just say, like, you lead by example in many, many ways. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks, man. Well, that said, like, some people might disagree with the way I keep animals, you know? So it's like, that's the thing. That's the struggle, is like, not everybody's going to agree on what that is, you know,
which is okay, right?
Which is okay. It's
on
okay.
On one hand, I think it's crazy that in the reptile industry, we're like, whoa, hey, I know this about reptiles, and you have to think like I do. On the other hand, we're like, whoa, hey, world, we want to have reptiles, and just because you don't understand us doesn't mean you should ban our way of living or send fish and wildlife in to kill all of our animals, right? We want to be different, and you should be okay with that. And then on the other hand, we're like, you're different, and I'm not okay with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's tough.
So
certainly,
I think you got to be okay with people being different, you know, and move on with love and respect towards one another, you know.
Different is cool, man. That's what this life is all about, you know.
But I think the challenges are the things that make us grow too. You know what I mean? talk through the tough things, and see if you can make a difference. Right?
I mean, Brian, you know for facts how many times you've come to me calmly saying, hey, listen, however you feel about this person, I think you'd probably get along with them. I think you'd like them if you would just chill out. And then,
Yeah.
Brian, you know, then years later, here he is, right? He's right. Me and Donnie, look at us. You know what I mean? So, you know, I listen, sometimes people don't want to listen. Some people just want to be mad because their life sucks. At the end of the day, the only thing I can think about why somebody's such a hater is because their life, they have so much time to hate. Like, how do you have time to dwell and be upset at this one person or multiple people, whatever, when you got your own stuff to care about? Like, if I sat down and tried hating on people, I would be too drained to even want to take care of my stuff. So that's all I can think about is somebody is really unhappy with their life. So all they got time is to be upset and mad. That's all I can think about. I don't know.
I mean, that's a pretty common place to be coming from in that situation, certainly.
Right. Listen, I appreciate you so much. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah, you too, man.
Give all your family well, there's 6, right? But Jesus, give them all a hug, man. I love you so much, Brian.
Yes, I will. Thank you, guys. Great to see y'all.
Have a good night.
Love you guys.
Love you too, bro.
A wholesome guy. Hey, listen, if I got to tell you one of the biggest reasons why I love you so much, Garrett, is because of Brian Cusco. I understand, like, you were my bridge, or Cusco was the bridge from me getting to know him to you. And your guys, I always respected your guys' bond, the traveling you guys done. Like, so, you know, I take this to heart, man. You are who you hang around with. That's a buddy you hang around with. Good, solid people. So
the funny thing about me and Brian is that, especially when we met, like, we clicked on one level, but you could not find 2 more different people. Like, you couldn't. Like, Brian and I were like absolute literal opposite ends of every spectrum that you could invent. You know what I mean? But I think both of us had that kind of core of, like, love, mutual respect, to get together. Sometimes stuff like hurts or whatever, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong way to do things either. You know what I mean? Sometimes the harder way to go through something is the right way to do it. And that is it. And that's what you got to do. You know, don't worry about the barrier to entries, all that kind of stuff. So I've been kind of like keeping an eye on the chat too. It looks like there's 2 people in there that are feeling hurt by me from being cut off. Like you were asking about, or feeling like that they were cut off or whatever. And so I think that there's probably a misunderstanding there too. I'd encourage both of you guys to reach out.
You might get a couple emails, you know.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Like, I commend people who do email Garrett and don't just go to other people and tell them that you're upset. That doesn't do anything. Go to the source. Go straight to the person and just talk it out, you know. And that's maybe all it takes.
Yeah, you know, here's the other thing about it too. We've got I'm on 3 different YouTube channels and a podcast with Brian, plus these ones that we do, right?
Right.
Everything that we do is extremely public. Yep. All the time.
Makes it easy.
You know what I mean? And so, and then there's other people that you know this much about them or whatever, and then it's very easy when they're 99% private or whatever to portray themselves as one thing or another. So I think as human beings, like a lot of times we assume everyone else is going to be like us, like they think like us, or they're doing this because that's what I would do or whatever. It's not true. People are different, you know? So I mean, I guess all that is to say is, like, have some mercy on your judgments with people until you actually talk to them, because the online, like, kind of like gang up and then laser focus thing, I understand people are passionate and trying to help things change. That's why I keep telling everyone, like, go to USARK's video that's coming out on Friday. They're going to put together all the resources for us in the way that they do so well, so that we can channel all that angst and everything that's going on right now into hopefully what would be a very productive outcome. Right. And then remember this too, because I think that stuff like this would have been more preventable had we not let that foot get in the door in the first place. As a community, you know, at large. I mean, I know that I'm not saying it's the reptile industry's fault by any means, but we definitely need to be there to support each other when these kinds of, like, attacks come in, because it's the foot in the door to something bigger. You know, with the government, I mean, you can see that there's an agenda there, right? There's a definite agenda there. You know, when and it's the same thing with a lot of the politics that go online at the same time. I mean, you're seeing some of it. A lot of it's public. A lot of people, you don't see what's public, you know, or you get one side, or you get one picture, and that's all you got to go by. You know, I don't know that that's enough to run one way or the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest problem in this industry right now is we're beating each other up. Like we're too busy fucking going after each other instead of just kind of just putting some of this judgmental shit aside and kind of seeing what the biggest picture is, and that's this agenda. Scary thing. What's it going to take? I feel like this video happening that's being exposed, that has to be the first step to the eye opener that we all need to just kind of chill right now. There's pitchforks, like community pitchforks, right? Certain people that want to take down certain people, but we're all people of the animals. We're all people to have these animals. So bigger pictures need to be looked at for sure, Garrett. Which reminds me, I have a bigger picture when it comes to topics. Wait, I don't mean that. This was a big picture what we talked about tonight. But what I'm saying is I don't want to end this podcast on the topics we've been talking about, because at the end of the day, I love the super dwarfs, buddy. This guy right here loves the super dwarfs. Your legacy is about the super dwarfs. So my question to you is, you know, Eric Lee, being the mentor he is to me, we have an awesome clutch. By the way, you're gonna be excited about what we're gonna show you here in the next week or so, Garrett. But anyways, we have a clutch here, 50% super dwarfs. My goal is I want to at some point get to the smallest snake I could possibly make, to the purest form, right? What's your advice for somebody like me? How do I do that without, like, mind you, I have Eric, right? But not everybody has an Eric Lee. Not everybody has a Garrett Hartle. Not everybody's a part of ROR, Patreon. So the people out there that need the right step in the right direction into working with the smallest locality of super dwarfs and not making sure it's not washed in with anything else. How do you, what's the safest way about going around that?
I think that there's a lot of breeders that have a lot of philosophies on that. It's something that takes a long time, honestly. You know, if you're talking about maintaining a small bloodline, that's easy. Go buy 2 small bloodline, 2 pure Kalatoas or something like that. Kalatoa, Madu, Karampa. Those are widely regarded as the smallest 3 localities, right, Eric? Would you agree with that? I mean, if you just want small snakes, it's very easy to go ahead and just buy those and breed them. But if you're talking about introducing morphs from larger bloodlines into smaller ones, that's something that's debatable and going to be based breeder by breeder on their different philosophies and stuff like that. My personal experience is that the way that a lot of times people breed to the way that they buy. So like if I'm buying a Kalatoa albino, what's the main thing that you look at? You're buying a Kalatoa albino. The number one thing to look at is, I don't know, what would you look at, Eric? Just one thing. It's the title of the ad. What do you need to know to know that that's a super dwarf albino?
Pairing.
The pairing. I guess.
Yeah, the pairing or the way. So the reason when you say pairing, it's like mainland here, super dwarf here. That would be half super dwarf, right? 50% super dwarf. So the pairing gives you like a percentage. That's the way that you buy that. You guys are actually right in saying like it is the pairing overall and how you get there. There's a lot of ways to make a 50% super dwarf, and they're not. Some are going to be bigger and some are going to be smaller depending on the pairings that you did. Overall, people overthink this too much. They rely too much on that percentage. You know, like I can go get, say, a 6-foot Kalatoa male and breed it to, like, we've got Karma in the other room. She's almost 21 feet, right? She's a platinum. And I could make probably 50% Kalatoa platinums and normals in that clutch if I wanted to. Are they going to be the smallest super dwarfs? I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Eric? Are those going to be small super dwarfs? 50% Kalatoa? No, not at all. But if I had 2 50% Kalatoas that are like 9 feet or something, and I bred those together, that's probably the size range you're going to stay in. So it's really easy. My advice to you or anybody else that's like investing into breeding super dwarfs, you want to start with the best bloodlines you can. And what dictates a high quality super dwarf, there's like this much of it is morph and this much of it is bloodline and locality and the breeding that went into it. How big's the mom? How big's the dad? How big are the grandparents? So small snakes make small snakes. Doing first time crosses from giant snakes to small snakes is not the best way to go out there and produce a top quality animal. That's literally the easiest and laziest way to do it. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with like these dwarf localities, because I gotta tell you, there's localities I saw at your place that I was like, oh my god, I think Slayer was one of them.
You guys want to see a first time cross from one of the cool localities right here on your? I haven't shown anyone on mine.
Yeah, but come disconnect because your video's shitty right now, buddy. So you're gonna need to come right back in. I'm gonna kick you out. Come right back in.
Oh, okay.
All right. I mean, what's the point of looking at it if it's not clear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Garrett, I'm sorry, Eric. You've been so quiet. I have a big mouth. I talk a lot, man. But you're also just not. You're not a drama guy, man.
I stay out of it.
You stay out of it, but you also pay attention too. Like, from what
you have to pay attention, but at the end of the day, I stay in my little Chinese sweatshop and grind away. That's all it is.
I'm a happy man.
If it doesn't involve me, like I'm not sticking my nose in other people's business. I'm not getting up on people. It's just one of those things where I stay in my lane.
Right.
I mean, if it's general like reptile keeping and like legislation and stuff like that, then yeah, you want to say something. But if it's about two different cliques going at it or two different like people, I don't really care. It's not my thing. It never has been. It never will be.
Right. I think the only thing I could ever saw you like involved with the whole Samson thing was the whole annery. Like you can't call something 100% annery or something like that.
Or people that kind of can't identify purple sun snows.
Right.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Oh, all right. Go and explain. Talk.
Well, am I in there?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. We're listening. You're good.
Okay. So we took a 75% Kalatoa tiger, which is fairly high percentage Superdorf tiger, and we bred a pure Karompa to it. That's one of those exotic, really small, super rare localities, and this is the tiger that came out. So this is very simple genetics, just a tiger, right? Literally like the oldest, most established, incomplete dominant, easiest to make morph, but it's now the result of 3 generations into selectively into Superdorfs, and this last generation makes it 50% Karompa. It's still in its egg skin, so it's very not bold, but for those of you that can look at the little eye of the details like you, Eric, what do you think about that tiger? Turned out pretty stinking cool.
All the little dots on the laterals and
yeah, that's a classic Karompa trait, but it came out really well in tiger. Look, it's like banded almost. You see that?
That's ridiculous.
Thing's wild,
so bro. Honestly, that just shows you how untapped everything is still right now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're just scratching the iceberg. Like Eric, you're creating a lot of crazy high percentage stuff out there with morphs in mainlands that literally have like 6.25% mainland left in them, and all the rest of it's Superdorf, but it's a mainland recessive morph, things like that. It's crazy, but that's like one morph. How many morphs are there in retics? There's like 40 more to go. You know what I mean? So, and then all the way up. So our end goal, just as a philosophy, so you can see where Reach Out Reptiles is working towards, like I'm not done shrinking and perfecting a line until we're at least at that 93.75%, which would be this guy back to like a pure, some kind of Superdorf again. And then I'll say that's a small enough tiger.
So what would you put a different locality Superdorf into, or would you put him right back into 100% pure Karompa?
It depends on what you want to do. Like you guys might remember, we have one name. Look at that cool pattern.
That's a bitchin' ass snake, bro. I ain't never seen anything like that.
Isn't that thing crazy? Well, neither have I. Is a one of one, but tiny clutches. That's the problem. I could make 90 of them if I didn't care how small and cool they were, but I can only make one at a time that look like this. Yeah, it actually depends. We have tiger moving into other localities too. Like we've got real high percentage in Madu. The Madus and the Karompas are both very small Superdorfs, but they're like opposite ends of the looks spectrum. So the Madu is like, this one's like super chaotic, heavy pattern. It's going all over the place, very banded, like from top to bottom on the snake, if you see it. And then the Madu is like striped and clean. Everyone thinks it's like a super tiger annery or something, just a Madu tiger. So I actually want to take it in all the possible directions, flesh them all out and see. That's where I was kind of talking about, like, we're innovating here. Once you get it figured out, though, the design becomes a lot easier. If I can make whole clutches of snakes that look like this at 93.75% Superdorf that are like always the same size and have that similar look, now people will get the value of how long does it take to do that, Eric? It's only like 12 years, 16 years. You know what I mean? So we are working towards something for like 16 years that people might not understand. And that's what I was talking about. Why like innovators or breeders or like the really people who are getting like really artistic with this stuff do kind of need support. It's like, you know, if you think of any great work of art, like, you know, the David, right? When you think of that, everyone wants to see like, oh, what's behind the leaf? You know what I mean? Like that, and that's all they think about. But one of the things that the David is known for is like, go look this up. When you look at it in person, he has this crazy intense stare. And the way that the artist captured that was he sculpted the pupils like super far back and everything. So it casts shadows that are very realistic into his eyes. And then his eyes don't focus on the same focal point. One is slightly off, just enough for the human brain to like notice and be intrigued and drawn in. It's almost like a slight lazy eye, you know, almost indistinguishable, but distinguishable enough that it's like there's something it's the slight chaos in the perfection that becomes highlighted. So you have to be an absolute master of details to get something like his stare correct. And it just with the Superdorf retics and stuff, it just takes a long time. 93.75% is a goal. That's 4 generations. You know, I think there's very few people that have bred 4 generations of retics. Period. You know,
count on one hand, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Right.
So we're getting there. Hopefully people will pick it up and take off. The problem is from a market perspective, a business perspective, they're becoming popularized. And so there's a lot of people that like want to get in and get that quick buck, you know? So you really have to watch out. Like say somebody has like that 50% Calato albino we were talking about. I've got a 50, I'm going to make up prices. These aren't real prices, but I got a 50% Calato albino that's like $4,000 and it's top quality, right? And someone else makes one the lazy way and it's like $1,200, you know, but a mainland albino might be $200. You need to have the mindset. And Eric, I'm sure you'll agree with me. You're not just a breeder, but you've been a buyer of Superdors for a long time. It's not that you're saving from $4,000 to $1,200 because the animals are called the same thing and the price is cheaper. It's that you're getting ripped off from the $200 to $1,200 to get a half-baked animal that nobody put the work into. They're just trying to get a couple extra bucks off of you. And it is not going to help you get ahead at all. It's going to set you back. You know, you grow that animal up 4 years and you realize it's genetically, it's just not the smallest snake or what you wanted. That sets you back tremendously, you know, because you have all that time and effort and everything invested in that animal at that time.
Yeah.
Don't get ripped off for $1,200. Investing $4,000 appropriately is fine. You know,
that's some good advice right there, man. And I'm so glad you showed that off right now. That was a treat to tonight's episode. I got to tell you that right now.
This is the public debut. Only my Patreon's gotten to see this so far.
There you go, man. And listen, Garrett, we had just shy of 100 people tapped in for tonight. I'm not the only big ROR supporter, and you know, Eric Lee stands by ROR. But what I have to say is, what do you have to say to everyone out there who was backing you up tonight in the chats and just here to stand for you and just really just admire everything you've been doing? What do you have to say to all your supporters out there, buddy?
Oh, I love you guys. And honestly, I hope that nobody ever tries to look at me as like a perfect human being that wouldn't make a mistake or couldn't possibly be tied by someone who wants to make any connection from here to there because they've spent 15 years trying to figure out how to hate on Garrett or whatever. You know, like I'm not going to be that perfect guy. I won't hold up to it. If that's what you need, you should probably leave now. But those of you guys that stick around and help us out, we really love and appreciate you guys that much. I hope that you can feel that coming from us in the just sheer amount of like effort, thought, energy, and everything that we put into this industry. I mean, I'm not like some sit back and make a bunch of money guy. Most people haven't seen my house. If you want to watch really old video on why does a Superdorf cost so much, you'll see my real house. I reinvest like 110% of what I make every year into these animals and this community. And I think that that's why MJ is any good things that he has to say about me tonight is why he's saying those things, you know, because those are the things we connect on. Certainly what me and Cusco connect on. And I love you guys in that community for the same reason. So
you're the best doing it right now, man. I'm telling you right now, when it comes to leading in the industry for just a lot more than just yourself, like look what you do with USARK. just telling you, man, you're doing the most. So Garrett, thank you so much for being a part of this.
If I'm the best, it just shows how far we have to go. We got a long ways to go. We're just at the tip of the iceberg. And I appreciate you guys having me on regardless.
Thank you, Garrett. Hey, we'll talk soon. Have a good night, buddy.
Have a good night.
All right, bud. Take care.
I mean, and you gotta understand, you know, I've said this numerous times about Garrett. I call Reach Out Reptiles like the Canova of the fucking Super Dwarf game, because
no one's doing it like him.
No one's doing it like him. No one's taking the marketing to the level that he's doing at. Retic Fest, bringing everything together for the Retics, the Super Dwarfs.
Even like you said, labeling the individual clutches so people can track that.
I mean,
I don't think no snake person period has done it. Like that was smart. Us, you can track all the siblings and this and that. And,
you know, I asked Garrett, like, you know, hey Garrett, how much? Because like I said, one thing I was so impressed when I went to this place, he's like, hey MJ, check this out. He took me to a shipping center and he showed me all his boxes, and all I could think about is how much. I remember asking him, Garrett, how much is each one of these boxes? He's like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And because at the end of the day, he's like, think about the value. Like, first and foremost, you're spending. There's a comma involved with the amount of money you're spending on this animal, right?
Everything's set.
So why do you want to get it in this mediocre box, generic box that everyone gets, holes punched in it, whatever, you know, whatever the hell, right? You don't feel any kind of attachment to it. When you get it from Reach Out Reptiles, you're instantly attached.
Logo,
the pamphlets, like he has a pamphlet, he has a folder. It's like, dude, you're like in this for life. And that's what he said. He's like, listen, people go through things in life where they have to downsize. They have to let things go. He's like, I guarantee this animal that they're getting is probably going to be one of the last animals they let go of. This is going to be the most attached animal that they have. And I mean, man, you can't help but to admire. And one of the people know the highest percentage you're working at right now. Where have you taken the percentage with the projects right now where you're at? The highest is in the
highest I have right now is 93.75.
Oh my God.
Stuff.
That is nuts.
Hopefully this week I'll be hatching out some 78.25% Calico snows, which will be the highest ever. So.
Oh man, and listen, this is why
it's baby steps, man. It's
baby steps, but this is why, like, you got to value or just appreciate people like you, Garrett, that less than a handful who've actually waited the 10 plus years to get to this point. But that's why you should understand that if you do get into this game, you should be looking at the next 10, 12 years.
No, even like the snows I have hopefully happening this upcoming week, 9 years into it, 4 separate breedings to get here. So, I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. So it's just one of those things, slow and steady.
Yeah, listen, guys, thank you for everyone who tapped in and watched tonight. And like I said, Garrett Hartle is by far, in my opinion, just one of the most exciting people to talk about when it comes to the Super Dwarf and Dwarf game, because no one's doing it like him when it comes to the facility. It's just next level stuff. So for him to be on this show and talk about what we all go through at some point, but then also getting down to the nitty gritty, and that's the legacy. Like, there's such an amazing legacy at Reach Out Reptiles. And you know, and we're just getting started. Like, what's crazy is we're talking about you guys putting in these 10, 12 plus years, and what Garrett just showed us, we're just getting started.
That's literally just a tiger morph.
That's just a tiger. That's just a tiger morph in that Karappa. Yeah. And who knows what else this guy has cooking right now. It's like, so just stand by, man. Just be ready for the ride, and appreciate all the Retic, Super Dwarf Retic, all those.
Thank you, guys.
All you guys out there, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, drop a comment. Again, Garrett Hartle, thank you so much.
Thank you, Garrett.
Yeah, go follow Reach Out Reptiles, please. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go subscribe to the USARK YouTube channel as well.
Check it out on Friday.
Dude, check out that video. I will have that link to the video in the description below. And guys, let's all work together more, okay? Little more work together and little less being haters. You know, you feel me? Because at the end of the day, we're all here for one mission. That's to keep these animals. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, man.
Catch you guys here next Tuesday for another Fat Snake Tuesday.